Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to look at It Ends With Us, the book, because why not? What perfect timing to do a book review when the film comes out. Now, a few things. First of all, follow me on Instagram, unless you're Colleen Hoover, then just block me, I suppose. Secondly, this month in the UK, we had a bunch of riots go on due to racism, xenophobia, what have you. Like standard stuff, apparently. So I'd just like to take a moment to promote a few of the charities on GoFundMe that people have, put themselves up to raise money for local communities that have been affected by the riots, or even, people's cars got smashed, like carers and nurses. Nurses coming back from 12-hour shifts found that their cars has been smashed up. So I'm just going to put up a few of the GoFundMes. I've checked each one to make sure that it looks legitimate, but also GoFundMe does have donation guarantee in the rare case there is fraud. Some of you won't know this, but I actually reviewed It Ends With Us years ago in a compilation book talk video. Didn't get that many views, so you probably didn't see it. And I'm going to make my first ever apology, I suppose, a formal apology. I'm going to apologize for the review I initially gave it. Right now, any second now, I'm going to say those words. That's good enough. No, I am sorry. Fine, I'm sorry. It was the first book I'd ever read of Colleen Hoover's, and I think I was speed reading the books for the video itself because I read like 4 or 5 books, and I didn't notice too much wrong with it to begin with. A lot of it went over my head, or I just accepted it at face value because I wasn't familiar with Colleen's work. I didn't know how many tropes she uses. I didn't know that her male leads are often abusive. This is just the only book in which it's called out for the behavior. It is, because usually it's just seen as romantic. There was the first kind of like physical interaction between them when Ryle pushes Lily when he burns his hands. And it confused me to begin with because I thought I was reading a romance book upon TikTok's recommendations. And I initially thought, oh, well, it's understandable. He just burned his hand and she was in his face laughing at him and he pushed her out the way just to get to the tap to run his hand under the tap. I thought that's what had happened, but, I've reread it recently. And no, he burns his hand, she doesn't do anything, and then he pushes her into a cupboard. I didn't realize that's what it was, so I was initially a bit confused about it. Like, he pushes her hard enough that she hits a cupboard with her face, and I, thought, was this an accident? This is confusing. I read that wrong, so I apologize for that. And yes, I didn't know that Ryle is interchangeable with all of Coho's male protagonists who aren't meant to be abusive. I didn't know what I was getting myself into in that initial review, so I was actually a lot nicer than I should have been. A funny thing to say, but I really was. I think I was also trying not to be so overwhelmingly negative, though a little bit of negativity did come out because some of the things didn't add up for me even back then. But I said at one point, because I read, the author's note and stuff at the end, and It Ends With Us is Ryle and Lily's relationship is modeled after Colleen Hoover's own parents' abusive marriage, right? And I said in my initial review that the author sounded incredibly mature. I'm sorry for that. I apologize if I falsely led anyone into reading Colleen Hoover due to that review. Did not know what I was yapping about. Luckily, it's been a few years. I've grown as a person. I'm far more cynical and pedantic. So let's properly review the book. Content warning, Colleen Hoover. No, but seriously, content warning, domestic assault, domestic violence, sexual violence, suicide, heavy themes. Themes is doing a lot of heavy lifting when I just said it back then. She's attempting to do themes. Don't work though, we'll get to it. We've got a few hours to spend together. In the beginning, before the book starts, there is a dedication. For my father, who tried his very best not to be his worst. And for my mother, who made sure we never saw him at his worst. Dedicating your book to your father who used to hurt your mother is, it's something. And don't worry, it continues in the author's notes. And don't worry, we'll get there in 3 hours' time. Part 1, Chapter 1. As I sit here with one foot over either side of the ledge, looking down from 12 stories above the streets of Boston, I can't help but think about suicide. Straight off the bat, with the insufferable edginess, doesn't make your story more interesting to be faux deep. It has all the subtlety of a Kevin James bit. You ever dangle your legs over a huge drop and think about suicide? This is me jangling keys. No one's going to get that unless you've seen Kevin James' stand-up from 20 years ago on Netflix. You ever go to the bank and then there's this guy, and he jangles his keys across? No, I've never seen that before in my life, Kevin James. So funny. I love him. He's so unfunny. It circles right. Not the point. Let's just get on with it. I'm more focused on other people and how they ultimately come to the decision to just end their own lives. Do they ever regret it? In the moment after letting go and the second before they make impact, there has to be a little bit of remorse in that brief freefall. Reminds me of Darren's saga of Larton Crepsley, Mr. Crepsley. Reminds me of that. Anyway, better book series, the Darren Shan saga. I interviewed him when I used to have a podcast. Lovely man. Do they look at the ground as it rushes towards them and think, well, crap, this was a bad idea? Somehow, I think not. Probably it's called survival instinct, something I clearly don't have as I keep insisting on reading Colleen Hoover. I think about death a lot, particularly today, considering I just 12 hours earlier gave one of the most epic eulogies the people of Plethora, Maine have ever witnessed. Okay, maybe it wasn't the most epic. It very well could have been considered the most disastrous. Don't get me wrong, the eulogy I delivered wasn't profound enough to make history, like the one Brooke Shields delivered at Michael Jackson's funeral, or the one delivered by Steve Jobs' sister, or Pat Tillman's Okay, but it was epic in its own way. Overuse of the word epic for things that are not, in fact, epic gives me the ick. Epically. Lily Blossom Bloom, yes, that is her real name, gave a eulogy at her father's funeral earlier. Husband of the highly adored Jenny Bloom, the most revered teaching assistant in all of Plethora, and father of Lily Bloom, that strange girl with the erratic red hair who once fell in love with a homeless guy and brought great shame upon her entire family. Why is this written like a Greek tragedy? Just how revered can a teaching assistant be, no offense, and how much great shame can be brought upon a family in the 21st century? What? Anyway, Lily is sitting on her rooftop thinking about what else herself. Dead fathers and exasperating roommates and questionable eulogies don't feel so awful when the night sky is clear enough to literally feel the grandeur of the universe. I love it when the sky makes me feel insignificant. I feel like Coho is trying a lot harder in this one, but I also feel like I still don't care. Unfortunately for me, the door was just shoved open so hard, I expect the stairwell to spit out a human onto the roof. The door slams shut again, and footsteps move swiftly across the deck. I don't even bother looking up. Whoever it is, more than likely won't even notice me standing back here straddling the ledge to the left of the door. They came out here in such a hurry, it isn't my fault if they assume they're alone. I sigh quietly, close my eyes and lean my head against the stucco wall behind me, cursing the universe for ripping this peaceful, introspective moment out from under me. The least the universe could do for me today is ensure that it's a woman and not a man. If I'm going to have company, I'd rather it be a female. You're in a Coho book, I really don't believe that. I'm tough for my size and can probably hold my own in most cases, but I'm too comfortable right now to be on a rooftop alone with a strange man in the middle of the night. I might fear for my safety and feel the need to leave. And I really don't want to leave, as I've said before. I'm comfortable. This writing is so childish and I can't believe I didn't see that before. Like, why is bro yapping so much to me instead of, I don't know, describing the scene? Anything? Anyway, the bloke starts beating up a chair. Nothing comes close to the unhinged sexiness of Edward beating up a tree, so knock it off. I stare at the guy a moment longer, wondering if he's ever going to move. He's just standing there, staring down at the chair. His hands aren't in fists anymore. They're resting on his hips, and I notice for the first time how his shirt doesn't fit him very well around his biceps. It fits him everywhere else, but his arms are huge. Sure. Then he lights up a joint. This is important. I'm 23. I've been through college and have done this very same recreational drug a time or two. I'm not going to judge this guy for feeling the need to toke up in private, but that's the thing. He's not in private. He just doesn't know that yet. And he finally notices Lily. He's about 10 feet away, but there's enough light from the stars that I can see his eyes as they slowly drag over my body without revealing a single thought. It's not a single thought in that head anyway. He immediately objectifies her, which I guess he would because he is meant to be abusive later on. But Coho does write in her author's notes that at several points she wanted to change Ryle's storyline because she fell in love with him from the first few chapters alone. So this isn't meant to be, oh, he's objectifying her because he's gross. No, he's just a Coho bloke. I feel his voice in my stomach. That's not good. Voices should stop at the ears, but sometimes, not very often at all actually, a voice will penetrate past my ears and straight down from my body. He has one of those voices, deep, confident, a little bit like butter. He's not Lurpak, he's margarine. Butter makes me think of popcorn, and now I'm hungry. Thanks for nothing, Coho. Anyway, Ryle, that's who this bloke is, must think that Lily wants to jump off the roof as he convinces her to get off the ledge. This guy is beautiful. well manicured, smells like money, looks to be several years older than me. His eyes crinkle in the corners as they follow me, and his lips seem to frown even when they aren't. How's that beautiful? When I reach the side of the building that overlooks the street, I lean forward and stare down at the cars below, trying not to appear impressed by him. I can tell by his haircut alone that he's the kind of man people are easily impressed by, and I refuse to feed into his ego. Not that he's done anything to make me think he even has one, but he is wearing a casual Burberry shirt, and I'm not sure I've ever been on the radar of someone who could casually afford one. Firstly, don't make me laugh. Secondly, the idea of Burberry meaning class in England is quite humorous. It might mean glass, as in, I'll glass you, you mug. I say that as someone who has Burberry pattern scarf, so don't even get me. Don't even try. He's facing me again, resting his elbow on the ledge. If you live over there, why are you here? Your boyfriend live here or something? His comment somehow makes me feel cheap. It was too easy, an amateurish pickup line. From the looks of this guy, I know he has better skills than that. It makes me think he saves the more difficult pickup lines for the women he deems worthy. It's okay though, because ultimately he will pick you. Aren't you lucky? I wanted fresh air, somewhere to think. I pulled up Google Earth and found the closest apartment complex with a decent rooftop patio. He regards me with a smile. At least you're economical, he says. That's a good quality to have. At least? I nod, because I am economical, and it is a good quality to have. Pick me, please, I beg. Imagine if she went up onto the roof to get away from the world because that's her special thing, and it's absolutely rammed to the edges with all the other special girls from rom-coms and indie films where the quirky girl sits sadly on the roof until this lump of mayonnaise masquerading as a love interest finds her and they make out or something. Ryle tells Lily a romantic story about how a photographer recently fell off the roof and died. When my sister told me what happened, the only thing I could think about was whether or not he got the shot. I was hoping his camera didn't fall with him, because that would have been a real waste, you know? To die because of your love of photography, but you didn't even get the final shot that cost you your life. His fault makes me laugh. I'd say this is the first sign he's a psychopath, but all Colleen Hoover men literally speak like this and act faux deep. So, like, this is just Ridge, innit? Or Ben. Or the one from Layla. Leeds, that's it. Ugh. But there is one key difference between Ryle and the other guys. He's abusive on purpose, rather than through the subconscious of Coho. Do you always say exactly what's on your mind? He shrugs. Not to most people. This makes me smile. I like that he doesn't even know me, but for whatever reason, I'm not considered most people to him. Pick me, please.
So pick me. Choose me. Love me.
He scrunched up his nose, and it's kind of hot. Watching this guy, dressed in his Burberry shirt with his $200 haircut, making silly faces. What kind of residency? Are you a doctor? He nods. Neurosurgeon. Less than a year left on my residency, and then it's official. Before the age of 30, not sure about that. They chat for a bit. Also, in the movie, they've aged them up because the director, Justin Baldoni, said that it's just more realistic then for him to be at the place he is in his career. Rather than Coho was just kind of like, tee-hee, yeah, I got it wrong because I don't believe in research. He smiles. It's Ryle, he says. Ryle Kincaid. I sigh, sinking into myself. That's a really great name. Now I know she's lying. I can think of 3 better names just off the top of my head. Tipler Johnstone, Curran Cranswell, Sugar Roundhouse. Your parents must be real assholes. One of them was. My father died this week. He glanced at me. Nice try. I'm not falling for that. I'm serious. That's why I came up here tonight. I think I just needed a good cry. He stares at me suspiciously for a moment to make sure I'm not pulling his leg. He doesn't apologise for the blunder. Instead, his eyes grow a little bit more curious, like his intrigue is actually authentic. Now who's the arsehole? I don't know, I say with a shrug. As his daughter, I loved him, but as a human, I hated him. You know, you can just hate people who are shitty and also related to you. You don't have to love them because they're family or some rubbish. Get on my level. Tell me a naked truth, Lily. Steady on, you've just met. Every coho, protag, and love interest is the insufferable sort who can't just do small talk, but don't have the intelligence to go into deeper subjects without being superficial. All we are is dust in the wind, dude.
Philosophize with him. All we are is dust in the wind, dude. Dust. Wind. Dude.
My father was abusive. Not to me, to my mother. He would get so angry when they fought that sometimes he would hit her. When that happened, he would spend the next week or 2 making up for it. He would do things like buy her flowers or take us out to a nice dinner. Sometimes he would buy me stuff because he knew I hated it when they fought. When I was a kid, I found myself looking forward to the nights they would fight, because I knew if he hit her, the 2 weeks that followed would be great. I paused. I'm not sure I've ever admitted that to myself. Of course, if I could, I would have made it to where he never touched her, but the abuse was inevitable within their marriage and it became our norm. When I got older, I realized that not doing something about it made me just as guilty. I spent most of my life hating him for being such a bad person, but I'm not so sure I'm much better. Maybe we're both bad people. So she trauma dumps on him, like trauma dumps on his chest. But no, you're not just as guilty for being a child socialized into a family where abuse is normal. It's not like you're a 40-year-old woman casually watching a guy hit his wife whilst you take a drag on a cigarette and browse Etsy. Like, why are you victim blaming yourself? Chill out, babe. Though it's a good thing to note about Coho that somehow everything is always the woman's fault. Ryle looks over at me with a thoughtful expression. Lily, he says pointedly, there's no such thing as bad people. We're all just people who sometimes do bad things. I open my mouth to respond, but his words strike me silent. We're all just people who sometimes do bad things. I guess that's true in a way. No one is exclusively bad, nor is anyone exclusively good. Hitler, Keanu Reeves, that's the scale. Some are just forced to work harder at suppressing the bad. Flawless logic, so flawless that I've seen teens on BookTok use this reasoning to defend Ryle and be sad that he and Lily didn't get together in the end because he just made a few mistakes and he can change when he repeatedly beat her and tries to rape her later on. But there's no such thing as bad people, so maybe she can fix him. Like, shut up. And in any other book, this would almost be foreshadowing for his abuse later on. But this is like a repeated, I dare say, theme. It's a repeated theme throughout this book, however. So it's clearly just what Colleen Hoover thinks. That's the thing as well. I didn't know before that most of the time her protagonists are just mouthpieces for what she actually thinks and believes about things. Didn't know that 4 years ago. Was it 4 years ago or was it 3 years ago? Regardless. Anyway, it was naked truth, and I'll get to that term later on. Is he watched a 5-year-old boy die tonight because this is Coho and we need a bit of the trauma dumping Olympics. There was nothing that could be done by the time he made it to the operating table. Everyone around, nurses, other doctors, they all felt so sorry for the family. Those poor parents, they said. But when I had to walk into the waiting room and tell those parents that their child didn't make it, I didn't feel an ounce of sorry for them. I wanted them to suffer. I wanted them to feel the weight of their ignorance for keeping a loaded gun within access of 2 innocent children. I wanted them to know that not only did they just lose a child, they just ruined the entire life of the one who accidentally pulled the trigger. You are well hard for having no empathy, mate. Of course, he feels this way because, spoiler alert, this is the exact same thing anyway that happens to Ryle as a kid, and it's kind of used as an excuse for why he is the way he is. To one-up him, Lily then reenacts the eulogy that she gave for her father's funeral. Hello, my name is Lily Bloom, daughter of the late Andrew Bloom. Thank you all for joining us today as we mourn his loss. I wanted to take a moment to honour his life by sharing with you 5 great things about my father. The first thing, I look at Ryle and shrug. That's it. He sits up. What do you mean? I take a seat in my lounge chair and lie back down. I stood up there for 2 solid minutes without saying another word. Based and perhaps the only time a Coho girl has ever stood up to a man. Granted, the man had to be dead for her to do it, but I will take the win. I can't top that, he says. I'm sure you can come close. I'm not sure I can. I roll my eyes. Yes, you can. Don't make me feel like the worst person out of the 2 of us. Tell me the most recent thought you've had that most people wouldn't say out loud. He pulls up his hands behind his head and looks me straight in the eye. I want to sleep with you. He shoots me a look of innocence. You asked for the most recent thought, so I gave it to you. You're beautiful. I'm a guy. If you were into one-night stands, I'd take you downstairs to my bedroom and I would sleep with you. She's on a rooftop alone with this strange man and he's just said this. It's not as attractive as you think, Coho. And remember, she fell in love with this version of Ryle that she was writing. But how could Lily possibly reject such a romantic proposal? I need a minute to regroup after that. I say with a laugh. I try to think of something with a little shock value, but I can't get over the fact that he just said that out loud. Maybe it's because he's a neurosurgeon, and I never pictured someone so educated throwing around the word so casually. Time to listen to some Slavoj Žižek then, you idiot. Lily then tells Ryle that the first guy she had sex with was homeless, Atlas, a teenager who lived in a condemned house on her street, who got beaten up by Lily's dad once he found out. Ryle then admits he doesn't want marriage or kids, but guess who magically changes his mind later on? He says, both. Anyone can have children. Anyone can get married, but not everyone can be a neurosurgeon. I get a lot of pride out of that. And I don't just want to be a great neurosurgeon. I want to be the best in my field. You're right. It does make you sound arrogant. He's actually so right, but you can really hear Coho popping out. via Lily. He shakes his head. My children wouldn't be. Not many people have the drive I do, so I'd only be setting them up for failure. That's why I never have any. I actually think that's respectable, Ryle. A lot of people refuse to admit they might be too selfish to have children. He shakes his head. Oh, I'm way too selfish to have children. You guys can sense that I've written a paragraph about this. And I'm definitely way too selfish to be in a relationship. Actually, the main reasons people have children are inherently selfish. Oh, my kids will look after me when I'm old, which isn't true. Old folks and retirement homes are like some of the loneliest places, carers will tell you. Oh, they will unconditionally love me. Maybe. Depends on whether you're a good parent. It's not a given, nor should it be. Oh, but what about my legacy? Literally, what legacy? What legacy do you have? Millions of years of evolution and blood. Yes, so does the fly that you hit over the head and kill. What legacy? Behave. Not having children is the opposite of being selfish. You're not forcing boring sentience onto the great nothingness, not having a larger carbon footprint, not letting your children be the ones to deal with climate change and fishless oceans. Shut up, Colleen Hoover. So how would you avoid it? You just don't date? He cuts his eyes to me and there's a slight grin affixed to his face. When I have time. There are girls who satisfy those needs. Sex workers, I suppose. Because, no, you couldn't even pay me. You couldn't even pay me. Satisfy those needs is language used by creeps and predators. This is the speech of a killer, Bella. He then offers her a one-night stand and she rejects it. And then he continuously tries it on with her anyway. I didn't put it in, but he said something he says something like, so if you wouldn't sleep with a guy on their first meeting, what would you do? Even though she said no. Then he tries clumsily groping her breast. I made up the clumsy part, but it was definitely an awkward fumble and not the Mr. Sexpertise Coho wants you to believe. Luckily for Lily, she's saved by Ryle's phone going off. He has to go back to work, so he takes a picture of her before he leaves because he's definitely not a serial killer. And remember that part where I said, oh, that's important, him smoking a joint? He's a neurosurgeon who got called back to the hospital after smoking weed. Somebody is definitely getting a lobotomy tonight, and boy, I hope it's me. Chapter 2. I'm pulling the lid off the top of one of those shoe boxes when my cell phone rings. I reach across the couch and grab it. When I see that it's my mother, I press my face into the couch and fake cry into a throw pillow. That is just a weird thing to do. You are so weird for that. My new favorite thing at the moment is that most of you Americans, you've probably seen that Kamala Harris, she's picked why did I say it funny? Kamala Harris has picked a VP, and it's this bloke who's he's just like a normal guy, and he says things like, I mean, those guys are weird. Can you imagine Donald Trump going home and petting a dog? You can't imagine it because they're weird. So my new favorite thing is just to say about everyone, that's really weird of you. I sigh and sit back up on the couch. Hey, Mum. I'm really surprised she's speaking to me. It's only been 1 day since the funeral. That's 364 days sooner than I expected to hear from her. How are you, I ask. She sighs dramatically. Fine, she says. Your aunt and uncle went back to Nebraska this morning. It'll be my first night alone since... You'll be fine, Mum, I say, trying to sound confident. Okay, you're rude. Anyway, the phone call ends with the mum, and then Lily finds her Ellen DeGeneres diaries. The diaries she wrote as a teen to Ellen DeGeneres. That aged so well, did it not?
How was the party? I wasn't invited.
Actually, no, that's not the truth, Ellen. You were invited.
On the very top is a small wooden hollow heart. I run my fingers over it and remember the night I was given this heart. As soon as the memory begins to sink in, I set it aside. Nostalgia is a funny thing. A more competent writer would give us a little bit more than just nostalgia is a funny thing, but alas. I refuse to admit that I kept a diary when I was younger because it was so cliche. This is hurting me. Instead, I convinced myself that what I was doing was cool because it wasn't technically a diary. I addressed each of my entries to Ellen DeGeneres. In my original review, I actually did say that this part didn't bother me because I understand what she's trying to do here. She didn't feel comfortable. It was just an outlet for her. Fine. That part still is fine, but I do know better now that every protagonist in the co-host cinematic universe of the multiverse of bullshit has to have an insufferable quirk that makes them not like the other girls. So I do see through this a little bit more now. I watched it every day after school and was convinced Ellen would love me if she got to know me. She would probably hate you. She hates all of us. I open another shoebox and find more of them. I sort through them until I grab the one from when I was 15 years old. I flip it open, searching for the day I met Atlas. There wasn't much that happened in my life worth writing about before he ended it. Insane that her life only becomes worth something once she meets a boy, and this is the exact same thing that happens in Verity when Verity is writing her autobiography. The manuscripts that might be a writing exercise might not. I know which side I don't care. bad book. Her autobiography manuscript starts with the night that she meets, is his name? No, like what's his name? That bloke, just interchangeable man. Stand in for Henry Cavill. Any of her life before wasn't worth writing down in her autobiography. You're so weird for this, Coho. Also, is he called Atlas because he held up her entire world, or because he was homeless and had been everywhere? Come on, Colleen Hoover, which dick-slappingly obvious reason is it? It's actually none of those. It's because there's a town near her called Atlas. That's where she gets her name ideas from. Dear Ellen, before I tell you what happened today, I have a really good idea for a new segment on your show. It's called Ellen at Home. Well, I think we all know how much Ellen respects and appreciates unsolicited advice from strangers, peers, whoever. I think lots of people would like to see you outside of work. I always wonder what you're like at your home when it's just you and Portia and the cameras aren't around. Yeah, to be a fly on the wall when she had her scandal. It's so funny to me how Colleen Hoover is always just so wrong about people, ideas, pop culture, all of the time. If she states she likes an actor, you can almost be sure that they are a complete dick IRL. Like attracts like, perhaps. She writes in her diary that she saw a light on at the abandoned house in their street and a boy sneaking out. Dear Ellen, I fast forward through all your dancing when I watch your show. I used to watch the beginning when you danced through the audience, but I get a little bit bored of it now and I'd rather just hear you talk. I hope that doesn't make you mad. It would probably make Ellen spit with fury. Ellen would find a way to make you homeless. She finds out the boy is Atlas Corrigan and he smells, quotations, and her vegetables are missing from her garden, so she deduces it's Atlas eating them and she leaves him some food. They start talking to each other. He goes to her school. And Lily lets him use her shower because the abandoned house doesn't have any running water. Right before he walked out the back door, he said, "Thank you for not being disparaging, Lily." And then he was gone. Of course, I'd heard the term disparaging before, but it was weird hearing a teenage guy use it. He's 18, like nearly 19. It's not that weird, babe. Go to your English classes. What's even weirder is how everything about Atlas seems so contradictory. How does a guy who is obviously humble, well-mannered, and uses words like disparaging end up homeless? How does any teenager end up homeless? I need to find out, Ellen. I'm going to find out what happened to him. You just wait and see. It's the clumsy way homelessness is being handled for me. Like, she's kind of sort of fetishizing him. Like, you might as well just rewrite it like this. "Oh my God," she said, twirling a finger through her hair. He's not like regular homeless. He's like sexy homeless, like that. Lily's mother is considering moving to Boston to be nearer Lily, so Lily makes it about herself. "My father was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago while I was still in college. If Raoul Kincaid were here right now, I'd tell him the naked truth. I was a little bit relieved when my father became too ill to physically hurt my mother." That's understandable. "It completely changed the dynamic of their relationship and I no longer felt obligated to stay in Plethora to make sure she was okay. Now that my father is gone and I never have to worry about my mother again, I was looking forward to spreading my wings, so to speak. But now she's moving to Boston. It feels like my wings were just clipped." Perhaps, just a guess, Lily's mother also wants to spread her wings now that the arsehole is dead. Chapter 3. 6 months later, Lily is spending her inheritance money on a shop so she can create a florist business because she's Lily Blossom Boom, so she... Boom. Lily Blossom Boom. She could get into, I don't know, warfare. But like, you know, with a name like Lily Blossom Boom, she's... Bloom! She's not going to be an accountant, is she? A woman called... Imagine that signing off that on an email. I'd think someone's taking the piss, mate. A woman called Alyssa comes in due to an old help wanted sign outside and she's rich, so she's fine for working for free, which is very realistic. We know how rich people love working for free, but Lily offers her $10 an hour instead. 2 hours later, I'm convinced I've met my new best friend. That was easy. And she really is a Pinterest whore. Just like that. We don't need to see any real examples of bonding because that would just be a chore. They come up with ideas for the theme of the shop. She's bought a shop with her inheritance money, right? So she's clearly inherited a little pretty penny and she's trying to create a business. Commendable. She buys a shop. She has no ideas, no action plan. No, just buys a shop. It takes someone else coming in for her to sit down and actually work out what the hell she's going to do with her shop. So stupid. Like, are you dumb? Okay, I say, what if instead of showcasing the sweet side of flowers, we showcased the villainous side? Instead of pink accents, we use darker colours, like a deep purple or even black. And instead of just spring and life, we also celebrate winter and death. They're not like the other flowers. The legion of teenagers from 2007 who had black roses on their MSN Messenger handles will be thrilled. I would know I was one of those teenagers. My MSN name used to say, because you could change it, used to say avoid hangovers, stay drunk. I was like 12. I'd never tried alcohol. Kind of ironic now that I look back to it. Was that foreshadowing? Someone once told me that there's no such thing as bad people. We're all just people who sometimes do bad things. That stuck with me because it's so true. Ugh. And also, this same logic is used at the end so Ryle can still see his child, because even though the evil side of him beats Lily up, the good side of him surely won't chuck his infant baby out the window at a blind rage. Right? Instead of painting walls a putrid sweet colour, we paint them dark purple with black accents. And instead of only putting out the usual pastel displays of flowers in boring crystal vases that make people think of life, we go edgy, brave and bold. We put out displays of darker flowers wrapped in things like leather or silver chains. And rather than put them in crystal vases, we stick them in black onyx or, I don't know, purple velvet vases lined with silver studs. The ideas are endless. I stand up again. There are floral shops in every corner for people who love flowers, but what floral shop caters to all the people who hate flowers? This flew over my head the first time reading because I wasn't acquainted with how badly Coho wants her women to be different. So now reading this is just making my eyes roll so hard they might pop out of my head and go find some better books to read. Also, why would you create a shop for people who hate your product? What do you mean? Seems like a bad business decision to me. Anyway, then Lily falls off of a chair, so Alyssa calls for help from her husband and brother, and the husband appears. Did I mention he was wearing onesie? I'm talking a legit full-grown man in a SpongeBob onesie, of course. He's also very handsome because of course he is. The bar nearby gives out free beer to people wearing onesies during a hockey game, which sounds like a really shit business model, but I digress. Though not as bad as selling beer to people who hate beer. I will give them that. And I won't even digress because I was stuck on this. I looked it up. A hockey game is 60 minutes, longer with intermissions. It could be like 90 minutes with intermissions or maybe a bit more. You could at least sink 2 to 3 pints in that time, and much more if you're drinking bottled beer. Like easily 5 to 6. Is my British brain coming out right now? I don't know. And I don't know how often hockey games are played. I did try to look it up, and I looked the team they like is the Bruins, and I tried to look up on Reddit, but I couldn't make head or tail of it. It seems like they play quite frequently. I don't know. But considering in America, you get cut off from drinking if you seem drunk, whereas here, bartenders don't give a shit unless you can't even stand up. I don't see how the bar is making its profit back once the game is over and people are getting cut off because they're drunk. Maybe they take cocaine to sober up. That makes sense. Anyway, so Alyssa's brother is Ryle because, of course, and my headcanon now is that he's a cokehead. Deal with it. Both of the core relationships in this story stem from coincidence. Oh, I just happened to bump into this man on the roof. Oh, a rich woman who wants to work in my shop for free just happened to walk in. Oh, they just happen to be related. It's a bit much. Ryle gets all doctory on Lily, but they pretend that they've never met. I nod and watch as he adjusts himself across from me. He sits cross-legged and pulls my foot onto his lap. One of his hands is holding the ice around my ankle, but the other one is wrapped around my bare foot. He's brushing his thumb back and forth like it's no big deal that he's touching me, but his hand on my foot is way more noticeable than the pain in my ankle. Coho is never beating the foot fetish allegations from me. He stares at me appreciatively. You're even prettier in the daytime. She might have a broken ankle, bro. Now is not the time. But then again, that does mean she can't run away. Moments like these are why I absolutely hate having red hair and fair skin. Is she Lily Potter? Is Ryle James? I wanted to go back to your roof on more than one occasion since that night, but I was too scared you'd be there. You make me kind of nervous. Nope, he doesn't. His fingers pause their strokes against my foot. My turn? I nod. His eyes narrow as his hand moves to the underneath of my foot. He slowly traces his fingers from the tops of my toes down to my heel. I still very much want to sleep with you. It's... wow. Raw, throbbing professionalism from the doctor. Alyssa overhears this and gets mad. I smile at her and wave it off. It's fine, Alyssa. Lots of people want to sleep with me. I glance back at Ryle and he's still casually stroking my foot. At least your brother speaks his mind. Not a lot of people have the courage to see what they're thinking. Of course she took it as a compliment. Of course she did. Have you ever seen all of those street interviews of men cornering women, drunk women leaving nightclubs and asking them like inappropriate questions about their body count? And I mean, that's how the whole Cocktail Girl started, right? Like there are plenty of men who have no fear of being blunt. It's not charming. Just go onto a dating site and see what men message women. It's not charming. Lily's ankle isn't broken but is damaged, so she needs to rest it for a week. They also keep saying to each other, naked truth, and it's very annoying, and I'll get to it in a second. He nods once and then he says, my turn. He places his hand on the table next to me and leans in a little. I'm very attracted to you too. There's not much about you I don't like, but I kind of hope we're never around each other again because I don't like how much I think about you, which isn't all that much, but it's more than I'd like. So if you aren't still going to agree to a one-night stand, this is so chilling. And I think it's best if we do what we can to avoid each other because it won't do either of us any favors. I don't like the way that he says, if you still aren't going to agree to a one-night stand. I hate the way that's worded. It's also the way that he can't be around her unless it's for sex because women are fleshlights and men can't control themselves. He's set up the same way that Christian Grey and every other feeble idiot is in these types of stories. It has to be his way because he has to be in control because he's so dominant and not at all an insecure child who'll throw his toys out of the pram. I don't know how he ended up this close to me, but he's only about a foot away. His proximity makes it hard to pay attention to the words that come out of his mouth. His gaze drops briefly to my mouth, but as soon as we hear the front door open, he's halfway across the room. Sorry, is he Edward? Why did he move so fast?
As if you could outrun me!
I push my bottom lip out. Your doctor brother says I have to stay off it for a few days. She hands me my water. Good thing you have me. I can work and do what I can to clean up while you rest. Do people this helpful for no reason actually exist IRL? And if so, where can I find one? Alyssa and Marshall, right? I feel like Coho was watching How I Met Your Mother when she came up with these names. Yeah. And then before, I was just doing my makeup and I put on Rachel's video of this same book, It Ends With Us, the one that she did a year ago. And I was just watching it to see like if we got conflicting points or whatever. Just watch that video. Why not? She's my mate. And she mentioned that when Ryle is on the roof begging her... No. When Ryle goes to her apartment to beg her for sex, it's like something out of the Barney Stinson playbook. And then she found this quote from Barney Stinson that sounds like what Ryle was doing. And the episode of How I Met Your Mother is called The Naked Truth. And you've got Marshall and you've got Alyssa, right? And the person who plays Lily in How I Met Your Mother is Alison, what's her face? Is it Alison? Yeah. Colleen Hoover has never had an original thought in her entire life. And it's so annoying. You know, her net worth is like in the tens of millions now. Anyway, Alyssa and Marshall leave so Ryle can immediately start badgering Lily about sex. He nods and carefully sets my foot back on the table. That is correct, he says. I specialize in one-night stands and you're on the quest for your holy grail. I laugh. You have a good memory. I do, he says. A languid, I can't pronounce that word, smile stretched across his mouth. But you're also hard to forget. He says that to all the girls, I guarantee. Then they do a naked truth because that's their thing in this book. I was just watching How I Met Your Mother when she wrote it, apparently. And by thing, I mean steaming bag of shit on fire that you leave on the doorstep of someone you hate. Oh wait, I'm so confused. This is in my script. The bit that I just said was a repeat of the thing that I just said 5 minutes ago. Because the book was so dull that when I got back to my script, I didn't realize I was rereading the same pages. Anyway, I'm going to keep it in. The three of them walk me to my car, but Ryle allows Lissa to do most of the work. He seems almost scared to touch me now for some reason being his tiny erection. Alyssa leans over and says, Ryle, maybe you should drive her home and take a cab back to the apartment just to be safe. Ryle looks down at me and shakes his head. I don't think that's a good idea, he says. She'll be fine. I've had a few beers and shouldn't be driving. You could at least help her home, Alyssa suggests. Ryle shakes his head, then pats the roof of the car as he turns and walks away. Bullshit. We know that Colleen Hoover does not care about drink driving. Check out my reminders of him video. The 2 times I spent with Ryle were on days I'd probably rather forget. My father's funeral and spraining my ankle. But somehow him being present made them feel like less of the disasters they were. Why? He did literally nothing other than be a red flag. Also, days I'd probably forget. You sprained your ankle. How traumatic could that have been? I just read the pages. It didn't hurt so much that you shit yourself and passed out, and Ryle had to pretend that you hadn't while he came onto you, which he absolutely still would do. Chapter 4. It takes me half an hour to make it from my car to my apartment. I called Lucy twice to see if she could help me, but she didn't answer her phone. When I make it inside my apartment, I'm a little irritated to see her lying on the couch with her phone to her ear. Lucy is based. I can't believe I'll be stuck in this apartment for the entire week. I grab my phone and text my mother. I sprained my ankle. I'm fine, but can I send you a list of things to grab for me at the store? I drop my phone onto the bed, and for the first time since she moved here, I'm thankful my mother lives fairly close to me. I too only like people based upon their acts of service to me. Also, were any of the things she asked for from her mother perhaps 2 sticks, long sticks from literally any tree, so she would have crutches and wouldn't have to stay in the apartment for a week? What kind of idiot is she? Where's the woman with all the initiative we saw earlier who wanted to sell flowers to flower haters? Nonsense. I think I like her more now that my father has passed away. I know it's because I held a lot of resentment toward her for never leaving him. Even though a lot of that resentment has faded when it came to my mother, I still have the same feelings when I think of my father. What a potent bit of character exposition, delivered in the briefest, dullest way possible. I understand perfectly well by the end that Lily has more empathy for her mother because she takes a while to leave Ryle, and I understand perfectly well that Hoover was writing from her own experience with her parents from this book. But this reads like blaming the woman for the man's actions, and the issue here is that this is a very reoccurring and common theme throughout most of Coho's work, and I know that because I have now read over a dozen of her books. If I was a pushover, I'd say the difference with this book is that Coho's FMC is being a misogynist on purpose, right, to have that character development, but I'm not a pushover, and Coho has lost any goodwill with me, to be honest, and has demonstrated to me several times in all of my other reviews that she knows what she's doing and what she's consciously writing. It's not an accident when she writes her misogyny, victim blaming, women hating. It's not accidental. But sure, go act buddy with Blake Lively on Instagram and pretend you're all about girls supporting girls now, you cretin. This here is very much the stopped clock of Coho's oeuvre. Yeah, I had to look up how to say that. All of her men are abusive and all of her women misogynists, but this time they were meant to be that way. Too bad. The meta-narrative is against you and we can read your other work because it won't stop being pelted at us like t-shirts from a cannon. Like that one episode in The Simpsons and then Maud dies. It's me, I'm Maud.
Fire! Ooh, a bobby pin! Maud?
It can't be good still holding on to so much bitterness towards my father, but damn it, he was awful. To my mother, to me, to Atlas. She cares more about Atlas than her father routinely beating her mother. Cool. Funny though. She'll blame her mother for things, but I guess she doesn't blame Atlas for his homelessness because he's sexy. If he wasn't sexy, it would be his fault. She reads more of her diaries where Atlas and Lily are interacting more. How old are you? He asked. 15. The look in his eyes made him seem a little bit sad about my age, but I don't know why. Probably too old for him, babe. No, Lily is 15. She won't even been doing her GCSEs, and Atlas is still at school, but he's getting ready to go to the military, and he's turning 19 soon. Just worth saying. They watch Ellen shows together after school. We didn't talk much because I fast-forwarded through all the commercials, but I did notice he laughed at all the right times. I think good comedic timing is one of the most important things about a person's personality. Do you know who else can learn to laugh at all the right times to mirror your humour? Sociopaths. Dear Ellen, come on, woman. Reruns? A full week of reruns? I get that you need time off, but let me make a suggestion. Instead of recording one show a day, you should record 2. That way you'll get twice as much done in half the time and we'll never have to sit through reruns. Listen here, you little shit. Do I come into McDonald's and tell you how to flip a burger? Ellen DeGeneres? Probably. He's been living in that house for 2 weeks. He's taken a few more showers at my house and I give him food every time he visits. I even wash his clothes for him whilst he's here after school. He's apologising to me like he's a burden, but honestly, I love it. Good little domesticated child bride. Anyway, she sees her dad attacking her mum and breaks up, and then she gets mad at her mum for letting it happen, and then she goes over to Atlas's house. He reached over and tucked my hair behind my ear. I liked it when he did that, and I suddenly wasn't nearly as mad anymore. Then he put his arm around me and pulled me to him so my head was resting on his shoulder. I don't know how he calmed me down without even talking, but he did. Some people just have a calming presence about them, and he's one of those people. Completely opposite of my father. We sat like that for a while until I saw my bedroom light turn on. You should go, he whispered. We could both see my mum standing in my bedroom looking for me. It wasn't until that moment that I realised what a perfect view he has of my bedroom. As I walked back home, I tried to think about the entire time Atlas has been in that house. I tried to recall if I'd walked around after dark with the light on at night, because all I normally wear in my room at night is a t-shirt. Here's what's crazy about that, Ellen. I was kind of hoping I had. Yeah, I sure want to be reading about a 15-year-old being perved on. Cheers. Reading about Atlas kind of puts me in a sad mood. Why is there italics? I tried to fall asleep and think about Ryle, but the whole situation with him kind of makes me mad and sad. Her control of language here truly is stunning. It's like reading a prose poem. Except it rhymes, and rhyming poems are for idiots, and if you like them, guess what? Maybe I'll just think about Alyssa and how happy I am that she showed up today. This stream of consciousness, absolute garbage. Chapter 5. Can't believe I'm only on chapter 5 so far, with 30 chapters more to go. I will never forgive Blake Lively for this. Is it fair to say that Blake Lively probably, could I get sued, hates women because of her association online with Coho? Yes. Yes, it is. Lily's ankle is healed after a week and she's back in the shop. I'll do a video about that whole It Ends With Us craziness. Coho and Blake really not taking it seriously and promoting the film as though it's a rom-com and doing a rom-com cut behind the director's back. The man, Justin Baldoni, a man who wanted to take it seriously and make it actually about domestic violence, and Coho and Blake Lively are going around doing flower shop pop-ups to promote the film. They're using the film to promote Deadpool and Wolverine. They're using the film to promote a new nail varnish and Blake Lively's new hair care line. It's actually so fucking dystopian. Good God. Of course, the first place I went to was my floral shop. Alyssa was there when I arrived today, and to say I was shocked when I walked through the doors today is an understatement. It looked like a totally different building than the one I bought. There's still a ton of work that needs to be done, but she and Marshall had gotten rid of all the stuff we marked as trash. Everything else had been organised into piles. The windows had been washed, the floors had been mopped. She even had the areas where I planned to put an office cleaned out. That sounds like less than a week's worth of work to me. But okay, sure. Then Lily is at home and a wild Ryle appears. I walk to the door and check the peephole before opening it. I don't recognise him at first because his head is down, but then he looks up and to the right, and my heart freaks the hell out. I want to fist fight every TikToker who insists Colleen Hoover is a good writer. She's such a good storyteller, because what in the juvenile is this sentence? It's the up, looks up, and to the right, and my heart freaks out. That's causing it. I didn't write this next part. My writer friend helped me out a bit. It's a pointlessly specific bit of choreography artlessly delivered, sacrificing the chance to actually say anything else of value or something memorable. And yes, the ending freaks the hell out with the exclamation mark, because I think that's what was giving me the exclamation mark. It's gross, but maybe it's also to be fair, it might be an Americanism that's not noticeable in the States too much. Either way, it shouldn't be allowed, and I'm judging it all very harshly. Ryle knocks again. I try to brush my hair out my face and smooth down my hands, but it's a lost cause. I worked my ass off today and I look like shit. So unless I have half an hour to take a shower, put on makeup and throw on clothes before I open the door, he'll pretty much have to deal with me as it is, important for later context. His hair isn't styled like it usually is. It's a little erratic, like the look in his eye. Do you have any idea how many doors I've knocked on to find you? I shake my head because I don't, but now that he mentions it, how in the hell does he know where I live? 29, he says. Then he holds up his hands and repeats the numbers with his fingers while he whispers, 29. There's a really big naked truth coming, okay? Brace yourself. I fold my arms over my chest and watch as he inhales a breath, preparing to speak. These next couple of months are the most important months in my entire career. I have to be focused. I'm closing in on the end of my residency, and then I'll have to sit for my exams. He's pacing my living room, talking frantically with his hands. But for the past week, I haven't been able to get the thought of you out of my head. I don't know why. At work, at home, all I can think about is how crazy it feels when I'm near you, and I need you to make it stop, Lily. He stops pacing and faces me. Please, make it stop. Just once. That's all it'll take, I swear. He harassed his way into finding her address just to beg her for a one-night stand, just so he can stop feeling a certain way. You know, his sister works for Lily. Could have asked his sister for Lily's phone number so he could text her. But no, he had to go about this in the creepiest way imaginable. And he's also begging her for sex when she admits she looks like shit. And I don't know what wish fulfillment fever dream this is, but it actually gave my cervix chills. It's like a freezer in there. This is the female equivalent of every man in a sci-fi story who finds a shaved supermodel native with no knowledge of men who falls in love with him because he's the first idiot to wander into her forest. Or indeed, Lady Garden. Pathetic! My fingers are digging into the skin of my arms as I watch him. He's still panting a little and his eyes are still frantic. But he's looking at me pleadingly. I'd say he's like a dog panting over a steak, but women aren't steaks, and dogs actually do know the meaning of the word no, so I shan't debase them or women like that. I inhale a calming breath. Ryle, I say carefully, did you seriously just knock on 29 doors so you could tell me that the thought of me is making your life hell and I should have sex with you so you'll never have to think of me again? Are you kidding me right now? He folds his lips together. What? Like that? And after about 5 seconds of thought, he slowly nods his head. Well, yeah, but it sounds way worse when you say it. Chills in my cervix. Could shove some ice cream in there. It would come out frozen. Sorry, that was horrible. Don't think about my cervix. That's like saying don't imagine a pink elephant. He bites his bottom lip and looks around the room like he suddenly wants to escape. I open the door and motion for him to walk out. He doesn't. His eyes fall to my foot. Your ankle looks good. Serial killer. He nods and then makes like he's walking towards the door to leave. But as soon as he reaches me, he spins toward me and slaps his palms against the door on either side of my head. I gasp at both his proximity and his persistence. Please, he says. I shake my head even though my body is starting to trade sides. and beg my mind to cave into him. I'm really good at it, Lily, he says with a grin. You'll barely even have to do any work. His head drops between his shoulders. He shakes it back and forth. He pushes off the door and stands up straight. He half turns, heading for the hallway, but then suddenly drops to his knees in front of me. He wraps his arms around my waist. Please, Lily, he says through self-deprecating laughter. Please have sex with me. He's looking up at me with puppy dog eyes and a pathetic, hopeful grin. I want you so, so bad, and I swear once you have sex with me, you'll never hear from me again. I promise. There's something about a neurosurgeon literally on his knees begging for sex that does me in. That's pretty pathetic. She says he's embarrassing himself, but then invites him in anyway because self-respect, what? He slowly stands up, dragging his hands up the door on either side of me until he has me caged in between his arms. Is that a yes? His chest is barely touching mine, and I hate how good it feels to be wanted this much. I should be turned off by it, but I can hardly breathe when I look at him. None of this is remotely attractive. Then Lily has the audacity to say she feels unsexy and sweaty and needs to shower first before sex, whereas Ryle is just chilling, fully clothed, on her bed after a 48-hour shift, still wearing his dirty hospital scrubs. Colleen Hoover, you need to get real immediately. It's also the way he can do that, but Lord, God forbid, I go to the gym and try and sit down on my sofa in the comfort of my own home, and my boyfriend's like, did you sit on any gym equipment? Get those leggings off of us. That's real life, Colleen Hoover, not this nonsense. You say this will make it stop, but I'm warning you right now, Ryle. I'm like a drug. She's never even tried drugs. If you have sex with me tonight, it's only going to make things worse for you, because once is all you're getting. I refuse to become one of the many girls you used to. How did you word it that night? Satisfy your needs? He leans back in his elbows. You aren't that kind of girl, Lily, and I'm not the kind of guy who needs someone more than once. We have nothing to worry about. He is vile, just vile. Who do you reckon has more sex, Ryle or Jared from Bully? And I'm sorry, I don't think the Bully book is going to come out before this one, but check it out afterwards because it is a lot worse than the stuff that Coho shits out. So who do you reckon has more sex, Ryle or Jared from Bully? And by sex, I mean wet dreams. Rob said, my brain simply cannot cross the divide from him pacing in her room, offering the shittest proposition to her, then falling to his knees and nearly crying, and suddenly being on her bed. It breaks all logic and emotional sense. It's the scrubs. The scrubs are my weakness. It has nothing to do with him. I wonder if there's a way he could leave them on during the sex. Lily confirmed to be patient zero for the next pandemic. Lily takes so long in the shower, freaking out over being 23 and having her first one-night stand. I wrote laughs in British here. That Ryle falls asleep inside her bed wearing his scrub bottoms. Cheers for that one, dickhead. I drop down onto the bed, not even caring if I wake him. I just spent an entire hour getting ready for him after busting my ass today, and this is how he treats this night? The man begged you for a one-night stand, a transaction just so he stops obsessing over it and objectifying you, and you're under an illusion that somehow the night would be special? You're too immature. You're too immature for a one-night stand, babe. What can I say? Of course, this is Coho's world, though, so it would be super special instead of, realistically, a boring fumble that ends prematurely with him leaving, you not having an orgasm, and him not wanting to have any aftercare or even spoon. Wow. I love men. She falls asleep with him until the next morning when he apologizes to her and says she will never hear from him again, I wish, and he leaves. It's quite possibly one of the most pathetic chapters I've ever encountered in a book. Everything about it, the content, the execution, the characters, is flaccid and vaguely offensive. Chapter 6. We're already on chapter 6. Don't worry, the final 20 chapters do go by fast. It's been 53 days since Ryle walked out of my apartment that morning, which means it's been 53 days since I've heard from him. But that's okay, because for the last 53 days, I've been too busy to really give him much thought. Clearly not, as you're yapping about him in your opening paragraph of the chapter, but who cares about my media literacy? Could be Coho using irony to show that Lily is indeed not too busy to think about him. So it could work then, but I'm not giving Coho that goodwill. Not doing it. Flower shop is officially open, but we don't need to concern ourselves with anything to do about it because a man isn't involved, and thus it simply does. Also, it's officially open, but it's a soft opening and it's not like the grand opening, whatever. The first customer is Ryle. Lord Jesus, save me. Isn't it beautiful, she says, Alyssa. She waves her hand in my direction. It was all her idea. All of it. I just helped with the dirty work. Why is this rich lady so self-sacrificing? It makes no sense. Ryle buys some flowers for a girl and Lily gets jealous. When Ryle is finished writing, he tucks the card into the envelope attached to the flowers. Alyssa rings up his total and he pays in cash. He looks at me while he's counting out his money. Lily, do you know that it's custom for a new business to frame the first dollar they make? I nod. Of course I know that. He knows I know that. He's just rubbing it in my face that his dollar will be the one framed on my wall for the life of the store. I almost encouraged Alyssa to give him a refund, but this is business. I have to leave my wounded pride out of it. Was he doing that? I don't think he was doing that. Okay. But don't worry. The flowers are for Lily, and the message Ryle wrote is, make it stop. Jesus Christ. Hey, Ryle, I know how to make it stop. It's a little thing called castration. Why don't we give that a go? I have a business idea. Sex toys for people who hate sex. All we sell is sandpaper and Frank's Red Hot sauce. Other sauces are available. Hot sauces. Chapter 7. Stop fidgeting, Devin says. I'm not fidgeting. He loops his arm through mine as he walks me toward the elevator. Yes, you are. If you pull that top up over your cleavage one more time, it will defeat the whole purpose of your little black dress. He grabs my top and yanks it back down, then proceeds to reach inside to readjust my bra. Devin, I slap his hand away and he laughs. Relax, Lily. I've touched way better boobs than yours and I'm still gay. I think this is Coho's first LGBT character, at least the only one I can remember out of all the reviews I've done so far. And it's funny because even the gay men are sexist, objectify, and assault the women. Devin was one of my favourite people at the marketing firm I worked at, but we weren't close enough to where we actively became friends outside of work. He stopped by the floral shop this afternoon and Alyssa took to him immediately. She begged him to come to the party with me, and since I didn't really want to show up alone, Alyssa's having a birthday party, I think, I don't know. I ended up begging him to come too. They aren't even actual friends, but because he's gay, he's allowed to grope her. Coho, you are so weird for this, honestly. It's such a weird thing for you to write. They talk about Ryle because he literally got down on his knees and said, please, Lily, please have sex with me. Devin raised an eyebrow. He begged. I nod. It wasn't as pathetic as it sounds. He's usually more composed. You're wrong. It was actually much more pathetic than it sounds. Devin plots to make Ryle jealous to help Lily, probably by bending her over in front of him and pissing all over her legs. They go to Alyssa's rich people party. Marshall reaches out for Devin's hand and shakes it. Hey man, good to meet you. Devin wraps an arm around my waist. I'm Devin, he yells over the music. I'm Lily's sexual partner. What's wrong, Coho? You can romanticize abuse, but you can't type the words fuck buddy. No one talks like this, unless you're trying to be comedic, but it fails. Unless you're Moss from the IT crowd. But Hoover doesn't have good taste, so she wouldn't have heard of that. I'm Lily's sexual partner. Hello, Jen. Ryle appears just to be creepy over Lily bringing a date. He smirks and then downs the rest of his wine. How thoughtful of you, Lily. He tosses his empty wine glass towards a trash can in the corner of the room. He makes the shot, but the glass shatters when it hits the bottom of the empty container. This is just bizarre behaviour. And it is both funny and sad to me how every bit of Ryle's behaviour that is a red flag can be used to foreshadow his abuse later on. Beating up the chair, begging for sex, doing whatever the hell this is. But this is the same behaviour also seen in every other Coho male lead. And I'm going to repeat this point. The only difference between Ryle and the others is that Ryle actually hits Lily. Notice how I didn't include Ryle's attempted rape in the previous sentence? Yeah? That's because Warren rapes in Maybe Not. Ben sexually assaults Fallon in November 9, and that had to be re-edited for the ebooks due to backlash. I'm sure there's a few others, but I've forgotten. I'm so sure there's a few others. Maybe something in Layla as well. Just weird, like horrible behavior all around. The only difference with Ryle's attempted rape is the story actually calls out for what it is. Let's move on. There's a blurry picture at Alyssa's flat that Lily recognizes as the one Ryle took of her on the roof, which is so weird of him. She disappears again. The more I stare at the picture, the angrier I get. The man has a picture of me hanging in the apartment. He bought me flowers. He's giving me attitude because I brought a date to his sister's party. He's acting like there's something between us when we've never even kissed. This anger won't last, by the way. What is the appeal of this man that negates the cold touch of fear she ought to be feeling about all of this? Moments later, I burst through the door to the rooftop. There are stragglers from the party up here. 3 of them seated on the patio furniture. I ignore them and walk to the ledge with the good view and lean over it. Good view of what? Lily? Good view of what? Then Ryle comes out for a chat. Lily, he says from behind me. I turn around and grip the ledge behind me with both hands. His eyes journey down to my cleavage. As soon as they do, I yank at the top of my dress so you can't see it. And then I grip the ledge again. He laughs and takes another step closer. We're almost touching now and my brain is mush. It's pathetic. I'm pathetic. This is so lazy. It's one level above Colleen writing trope and letting the reader fill it in. Ugh, you're driving me crazy. Do you want me or do you not? He stands up straight and takes a step towards me. Oh, I want you, Lily. Make no mistake about it. I just don't want to want you. You are literally a 30-year-old frontal lobe fully developed man. Grow up. I shake my head. You don't get it, do you? I say, softening my voice. I feel too defeated right now to keep yelling at him. I like you, Ryle, and knowing that you only want me for one night makes me really, really sad. And maybe if this was a few months ago, we could have had sex and it would have been fine. You would have walked away and I could have easily moved on with my life, but it's not a few months ago. You waited too long and too many pieces of me are invested in you now, so please stop. He should leave her alone. And also, why is she acting like she's emotionally invested? You've barely spent any time together actually talking, maybe like 2 hours worth in as many months. Behave. Ryle then decides to not even bother responding to her, like at all, which is kind of base, to be honest. He doesn't have time for women's yapping, and then Lily tries to leave the party. I turn around and Ryle is pushing through the crowd on the other side of the room. Lily, wait, he yells, still trying to make his way over to me. My heart is erratic. He's walking quickly, stepping around people, growing more frustrated with every person in his way. He finally reaches a break in the crowd and makes eye contact with me again. He holds my gaze as he marches toward me. He doesn't slow down. Alyssa has to step out of his way as he walks straight up to me. At first I think he might kiss me or at least give a rebuttal to everything I said about him upstairs, but instead he does something I'm not all prepared for. He scoops me up in his arms. Ryle, I yell, gripping him around the neck, afraid he might drop me. Put me down. He has an arm wrapped around my legs and one onto my back. I need to borrow Lily for the night, he says to Devon. Is that okay? I look at Devon and shake my head wide-eyed. Devon just smirks and says, be my guest. It's the way that she says no and Devon's like, fine. I just don't believe God exists. Because even the most uncaring, unbothered, hands-off God wouldn't allow this crap to be printed and read by millions. I refuse. This book turned me atheist. I just press my face against Ryle's chest as he walks me down the hallway and into his bedroom. Once the door is shut behind us, he slowly lowers my feet back to the floor. I immediately start to yell at him and try to push him out of the way of the bedroom door, but he spins me and shoves me against the door, grabbing both of my wrists. He presses them against the wall above my head and says, Lily. Of course he does. It's not a Coho book until a woman is trapped in a room. They start kissing. My God. This man can kiss. I'm just imagining a mule trying to unwrap a burrito with its tongue. But what his mouth has failed to do is respond to everything I told him upstairs. For all I know, I've just given in. I'm giving him what he wants, a one-night stand, and that's the last thing he deserves right now. I pull my mouth from his and push on his shoulders. Put me down. He keeps walking towards his bed, so I say it again. Ryle, put me down right now. I had that picture made the day I took it, he says. It's been in my apartment for months now because you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I'd wanted to look at it every single day. Oh, Lily, this is weird of him. It's not a compliment. Lily, of course, is supposed to fall for this, but other ladies in the audience ought to recognize how chilling it is for someone to latch onto you so quickly. And that night I showed up at your door, I went searching for you because no one in the history of my life has ever crawled under my skin and refused to leave like you did. I didn't know how to handle it. And the reason I sent you flowers this week is because I really, really am proud of you for following your dreams. But if I sent you flowers every time I'd had the urge to send you flowers, you wouldn't even be able to fit inside your apartment. Because that's how much I think about you. And yes, Lily, you're right. I'm hurting you, but I'm hurting too. Who cares about you? Until tonight. I didn't even know why. I have no idea how I possibly find the strength to speak after that. Why are you hurting? He drops his forehead to mine and says, I think it's like his erection pushing against his zipper, to be honest. Because I have no idea what I'm doing. You make me want to be a different person. But what if I don't know how to be what you need? This is all new to me and I want to prove to you that I want you so much more than just one night. He doesn't even know her. And don't any of you dare say, yeah, he's love bombing because he's abusive, because it's not due to him being abusive. The love bombing is due to this being how Coho writes every male lead, because that's what she likes in a bloke. And I don't even want to unpack that airport suitcase worth full of baggage. This should be horrifying to someone who is mentally balanced. I barely know the guy. Finally, some sense. He says, how can I prove myself to you? And she says, don't have sex with me. And he goes, okay, fine. And then he says, let's go to sleep. I glance at the bed, then at him. Right now? He nods and walks over to me. In one swift movement, he lifts my dress up and over my head. Okay. Until I'm standing in the middle of his bedroom floor in my bra and panties. I cover myself, but he doesn't even look twice. Okay, rude. And also, ow, my ego. They just go to sleep instead of, I don't know, actually talking to each other and getting to know one another without Ryle pestering her for sex. So weird of you, Colleen. They wake up. Well, she wakes up. I have no idea where my dress ended up last night, so I pull on one of Ryle's shirts. It falls past my knees, and I wonder if he has to buy shirts that are too big for him just so they'll fit his arms. Is Ryle the Hulk? Because you wouldn't even like him when he's angry. Or why is he so large? Like, does bro skip leg day or something? Why is it just his arms that are massive? That's weird, Colleen. Alyssa appears for coffee. I wave my hand around the kitchen. How did this happen? How in the hell did your entire house become spotless between the party last night and me waking up just now? Did you stay up and clean? She laughs. We have people for that, she says. People? She nods. Yep, there are people for everything. Lily has never heard of rich people having cleaners. How naive is she? Alyssa is rich because Marshall is a rich app developer for Apple. Well, he sells to Apple, which explains the onesie and the availability in the middle of the day for flower-based emergencies. Alyssa is about to warn Lily re-Ryle, but Ryle appears and gets riled up. As her friend, I have the right to give her my opinion when it comes to the guys she dates. That's what friends do. Well, as your brother, I would hope that you had a little bit more faith in me than you do. That's what siblings do this age as well. Ryle storms off in a huff, which is funny imagery because he's 30 and Lily follows him like a good puppy and they kiss and that's it. Chapter 8. We're almost halfway actually. She goes home, her flatmate is now engaged and is moving out, leaving Lily the apartment to herself. She reads more Ellen letters. My great-grandfather's name was Ellis. My entire life, I thought that was a really cool name for such an old guy. After he died, I was reading the obituary. Would you believe that Ellis wasn't even his real name? His real name was Levi Sampson and I had no idea. I asked my grandmother where the name Ellis came from. She said his initials were LS and everyone called him by his initials for so long, they just started sounding them out over the years. Which is why they referred to him as Ellis. You didn't need to write the last sentence. Unlike most of your audience, I do understand. Interrupt myself quickly. The amount of times I see Colleen Hoover and the ilk being discussed and people on Reddit or people just everywhere on the internet saying, I don't want to yuck someone's yum. That phrase gives me such ick. Like, I am here to yuck people's yum. I am not one of those safe channels who'll be like, well, it's okay if you, like, yeah, read it if you want. I don't care. But I'm going to make fun of it. And I'm going to make fun of you. I don't care. Cried someone else. Unlike most of your audience, I do understand how to read, retain info, see patterns, form conclusions. It's always funny to me, though, how these authors clearly think their audiences are big dum-dums.
Hey, you've interrupted my broadcast, dum-dum! So there's better be a conclusion! What is it?
Atlas and Lily are hanging out a lot together, watching TV or gardening. I glanced over at him and he was sitting cross-legged, looking at me curiously. I realised in that moment that he's probably the best friend I've ever had and we barely know anything about each other, all coho women when they meet one mid-man. I shrugged. For loving my plants the right way, plants reward you based on the amount of love you show them. If you're cruel to them or neglect them, they give you nothing. But if you care for them and love them the right way, they reward you with gifts in the forms of vegetables or fruits or flowers. Because love is transactional. You can also enter a toxic relationship with plants and let their substances abuse your body, ravaging and well-being. See? I can cobble together a lazy mirroring technique too, and it took 20 seconds, you Wattpad hack. He glanced back down at me. I pointed at his hands and said, you might want to take a quick shower before you go back. Compost is made from cow manure. He lifted his hands and looked down at them, then he looked down at his compost covered clothes. Cow manure? Seriously? I grinned and nodded. He laughed a little, and then before I knew it, he was on the ground next to me, wiping his hands all over me. We were both laughing as he reached down to the bag next to us and stuck his hand inside and smeared it down my arms. Ellen, I am confident that the next sentence I'm about to write has never been written or spoken aloud before. When he was wiping that cow shit on me, it was quite possibly the most turned on I have ever been.
That wasn't funny. Please, please never speak to me again.
I have once again had enough of this nonsense. But to be fair, most romance novels, if they're shit, and this one really is, need to have like a gimmicky moment or quirk to it to make up for the bland characters and shoddy prose. I would allow this moment if she just said that she was excited and thrilled by what this meant for their blossoming dynamic. I could understand that because it's a moment of closeness between them, played for laughs because of the absurdity. But turned on? The most turned on she'd ever been? Behave. I wanted to fact check something and then I found this on Wikipedia. The novel won the 2016 Goodreads Choice Awards for Best Romance. Best Romance. A book about domestic violence. Is everyone in this world high? Am I the weird one? I think maybe I'm the weird one because I don't get it. Surrounded by idiots. I'm going to go volunteer to go to Mars because I'm sick of this. Lily then watches her dad choke her mum for daring to park in the garage. So Lily attacks her dad and he throws her off and she hits her head and he drives off in a tantrum while she's bleeding on the ground, and then Lily's mum takes her to hospital and tells her to lie about the injury. When she said that, I just looked out my window and started crying because I thought for sure this would be the final straw, that she would leave him now that he had hurt me. That was the moment I realised that she'd never leave him. I felt so defeated, but I was too scared to say anything about it to her. This is very weird to include for a few reasons. One of them being, in the end, Lily decides that it's okay that Ryle has unsupervised visits to his child, takes the baby because it's justified as, oh, well, he hurts me, but he'd never hurt her. So it's kind of weird to I don't know why that's included, but it's weird to have this part, because you would think, due to Lily's own experience, she would be wary because, yeah, her dad never hurt her until he did. But Lily and Ryle's relationship is based on Coho's own parents' relationship, as she says in her offered notes at the end. And we will get to them because she really wants you to know that even though her father, trigger warning, her father hit her mother so hard that he broke his knuckles on her skull and had to get them replaced, his knuckles, he never hurt Coho and was actually a great dad. And she goes on about it in the author's notes, we'll get there. All of this is to say, I find it suspicious that even though her real life mum dumped her dad when she was free and they got a divorce and her dad never hurt her, the mum in this book has just become immediately unsympathetic because the dad has now hurt Lily. And it just, to me, reeks of even more blaming the women for the actions of men. It's very sus given Coho's track record of taking any opportunity to make a woman look bad. On the bus, Atlas asks about Lily's head, but she fobs him off. But he knows what's up because he used to have accidents around his family too. That meant Atlas couldn't come over and watch your show with me. I was going to tell him I would bring him blankets later, but when he got off the bus, he didn't even tell me bye. He just started walking down the street like he was mad. I know it'll be rationalized as he was mad about the abuse and not at Lily for lying, but why do all Coho men stomp off in huffs? It's wintertime in the diary flashbacks, and Atlas is freezing at night in the abandoned house, so Lily invites him to sleep on her bedroom floor instead. This is where we find out that Atlas is 18, soon to be 19, and got kicked out of his house by his mum's boyfriend, and he signed up to join the Marines, whereas Lily wouldn't even be doing her GCSEs yet if this was in England because she's 15. She'd be in year 10. He'd be in his final year at college. I swear, Ellen, every question I threw at him, he had an answer for. It's like he's tried everything not to be stuck in the situation he's in, but there isn't enough help out there for people like him. I love the implication here that he's earned our pity, unlike all of the other homeless people, probably. I wasn't so much whispering when I said, why in the heck would you want to serve a country that has allowed you to end up in this kind of situation? You know what he said next, Ellen? His eyes grew sad and he said, it's not this country's fault. My mother doesn't give a shit about me. Wow, pro-military, what a twist. She starts ranting about the world and then goes on to rich people for some reason. I'll never be able to respect rich people now, knowing they willingly choose to spend their money on materialistic things rather than using it to help other people. Wow, and also that's aged badly considering they're spending the PR tour pretending it's a rom-com about flowers instead of, using it to help it. It's so weird. It's so weird. But like, before anyone says, Blake and Coho did recently, like a few days ago, put up some resources for people suffering with domestic violence on their Instagram stories, which is funny because Instagram stories, self-delete after 24 hours. And they only did that because they were getting backlash. I'll never be like that, I swear to you. When I grow up, I'm going to do everything I can to help other people. I'll be like you, Ellen, just probably not as rich. Which is rich coming from one of the modern titans of anti-intellectualism. Chapter 9. Ryle comes over, tired from work, so Lily gives him a hand. They then skip the foreplay and have sex. Ryle, I whisper. Oh God, I say. Ryle, I scream. Is this a really bad haiku? His mouth is fierce and needy, kissing me everywhere he can reach. I grow so dizzy I can do nothing but succumb to him. The sex is missionary and she's just lying there, not doing much of anything else because she's so dizzy from his willy. He slowly pulls out of me, coming down in his forearms. You warned me. You said that one time with you wouldn't be enough. You said you were like a drug, but you failed to tell me you were the most addictive kind. And then he says this over a tepid shag that lasted less than 5 minutes. Also, when are we going to have a heroine who has sexual problems that means they can't be hypnotized by the most basic moves imaginable? Like someone who's like, sorry, I find it really difficult to reach orgasm via penetration alone, and I sometimes simply don't. I don't think, seeing as like, what is it, like a quarter? Or like half? Or I don't know, like a good portion of women can't. I don't think these writers could craft a male who wouldn't crumble under the pressure of maybe not being the best in bed. I might actually read that book, because I sure as shit don't want to be reading this. Chapter 10. Lily wants to start a charity, and I'm pretty sure that never goes anywhere. She also finds out that Alyssa works for her, despite being so rich, because she can't get pregnant, and she's bored of sitting at home crying over it. Her words, not mine. Do they sell an edgy bouquet for that, I wonder? Ryle sends her flowers with a charming message. Lily, I'm having serious withdrawals. The only thing he likes about her is that she's something pretty to look at whilst he ruts listlessly in her direction. Ryle, I need my next fix. I'll be finished here in about 30 minutes. Can I take you to dinner? Me, can't. Mum wants to try a new restaurant with her tonight. She's an obnoxious foodie. Ryle, I like food. I eat food. Where are you taking her? Me, a place called Bibbs on Marketson. Ryle, is there room for one more? I stare at his text for a moment. He wants to meet my mother? We aren't even officially dating. I mean, I don't care if he meets my mother. She would love him, but he went from not wanting anything to do with relationships to possibly agreeing to test drive one to meeting the parents all within 5 days. Good God, I really am a drug. Again, if this was any other author, I would say, oh, he's love bombing, it's a setup, but no, and I can't stress this enough, this is just Coho's ideal male archetype. It's not even a theory. She says at the end of the book, she fell in love with Ryle's character and wanted to change his story so he wasn't abusive. So all of this stuff is just Coho's wacky world of wet dreams and water slides, a magical place in which you, the walking vagina, have a mysterious pussy power able to turn the most commitment-phobic man gaga just because. It's like Coho's entire career is an accident. I'm pretty sure it is. She's built this empire of wet wipe heroines who conquer rich abusive men by literally lying there doing nothing and having messy hair and clothes. It's kind of reflecting badly upon women, isn't it? She laughs and says, you know what I mean. It's Ryle we're talking about here. He's never, in the history of being Ryle Kincaid, met a girl's parents. Of course, hearing her say that makes me smile, but then I wonder if he's maybe doing this just to please me. If he's maybe doing things he doesn't really want to do because he knows I want a relationship. And then I smile even bigger, because isn't that what it's all about? Sacrificing for the person you like so you can see them happy. Lily is just that special. I don't know why, but she just is. Alyssa isn't pleased about it though. It bothers me that she doesn't seem excited about the prospect of me dating Ryle. Is it something to be excited over? Your brother dating your close friend and boss? How about instead of pouting because people aren't throwing a parade for you, you ask if there's an issue and they can talk about it? Or would you skirt that plot hole too easily? She meets Ryle before the dinner with Mum. He hangs up the phone and slides it into his pocket, then he kisses me. It's not a hello kiss, it's an I've been thinking about you non-stop kiss. He wraps both arms around me and spins me until I'm backed up against my car, where he continues to kiss me until I feel dizzy again. Then when he pulls back, he's looking down at me appreciatively. You know which part of you drives me the craziest? He brings his fingers to my mouth and traces my smile. These, he says. Your lips. I love how they're as red as your hair and you don't even have to wear lipstick. His attitude is a complete 180 in less than a week and it's so ridiculous. And she doesn't think deeply about it at all. No introspection on how he's changed so quickly in such a short amount of time. It's just, oh, I'm a drug. They go to dinner. My mother leans forward and her eyes practically bulge from her head. Lily, she hisses. He's a doctor. Why is she so dramatic? I don't understand the fascination. Is it because doctors make a lot in the USA? Because I'm pretty sure over here they're just overworked and grumpy. Is it because in the US they can give financial security and social status because Coho is the woman manosphere podcast think every woman is? The waiter comes over and it's Atlas. This is the third coincidence in this story and people are just forgiving it. The hot homeless boy who just happened to move in across from you and just happened to fall in love with you just happens to be the waiter in the restaurant you've just happened to go to with your mother, and the new creeper who just happened to fall in love with you when you just happened to meet on a rooftop. You're not writing a plot with characters, you're writing your own self-aggrandizing sex fantasy, and apparently that can win a literature award. This is on the same level as Rick from Rick and Morty when he hang glides into a sports stadium filled with men who look just like his dad, who all cheer him on as he bangs a woman on the field. This is it. But for young women. Lily, my mother says, she flicks her hand towards the waiter. He's waiting for your drink order. So rude. She's like the victim of violent abuse, but hasn't been so traumatized by it that she can't be rude to waiters. Colleen, why are you like this? Why do you hate your own kind? Women. Not waiters. Lily doesn't mention it to anyone, but excuses herself and finds Atlas. She hasn't seen him in 9 years, but he's buff from being in the military for 8. She tells him about her shop and he says he'll meet up there with her sometime. She finishes her meal and her mum leaves, charmed by the charming Ryle. And here's an example of how charming he is. I would invite myself over, but I have an early surgery tomorrow and I'm sure my patient would appreciate it if I didn't spend the majority of the night inside you. Charming. He leaves and then Atlas is hanging around her car like a creep. He tells her that he's got a girlfriend too. Turns out to be a lie. It's just because he's jealous of Ryle or something. She ends up getting a bit hurt by this and goes home. For whatever reason, a huge tear falls down my cheek. A huge, pathetic, what the hell is this wetness tear? Pointing out that you're using a shitty cartoon trope doesn't make it any less shitty, Coho. You do actually have to do some writing at some point, but it's good. This happened for a reason. My heart needed closure so I can give it to Ryle, but maybe I couldn't do that until this happened. This is good. Yes, I'm crying, but it'll feel better. This is just human nature, healing an old wound to prepare for a new fresh layer. That's all. Very subtle. Chapter 11. She goes home and reads more diary entries. I finally pick it up and roll onto my back. Ellen DeGeneres, you are such a bitch. Hey, that didn't age badly. Dear Ellen, just keep swimming. Recognize that quote, Ellen? It's what Dory says to Marlin in Finding Nemo, you condescending little shit. Wait, why did she call Ellen a bitch? Did she turn on her for a good reason, or is it just more misogyny? Atlas has the flu and Lily looks after him, and Atlas kisses her collarbone to say thank you. I know it was probably the worst day of his life, Ellen, but it was one of my favourites. What am I meant to do with this? His suffering is worth it for the transaction from which you benefit, apparently. We watched Finding Nemo, and when that part came up where Marlin was looking for Nemo and he was feeling really defeated, Dory said to him, when life gets you down, do you know what you gotta do? Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. Atlas grabbed my hand when Dory said that. He didn't hold it like a boyfriend holds his girlfriend's hand. He squeezed it like he was saying that was us. He was Marlin, and I was Dory, and I was helping him swim. Just keep swimming, I whispered to him. Are they 5? Everyone in this book has the mentality of a Disney adult, so it does track. Lily is now obsessed with Atlas. He had slept in my bed the night before because he was sick, and I know I shouldn't have done it, but I put his blankets in the washing machine right before I went to bed. He asked where his pallet was, and I told him he'd have to sleep on the bed again because I wanted to wash his blankets and make sure they were clean so he wouldn't get sick again. For a minute, he looked like he was going to go back out the window, but then he shut it and took off his shoes and crawled into bed with me. We were facing each other on the bed when he said, "When do you turn 16? I just know he's going to go to the school library and look up the age of consent laws in the state of Maine. I nodded. I wondered why he was curious about my age and made me wonder what he thought about 15-year-olds. Did he look at me like I was a little kid, like a little sister? I was almost 16. And 2.5 years apart in age isn't that bad. Maybe when two people are 15 and 18, it might seem a little too far apart. But once I turned 16, I bet no one would even think twice about a 2.5-year age difference. I wondered why he was curious about my age as he lay in bed next to me, resting a flashlight on my thigh. Did he like me? I couldn't tell. I'm such a plain girl. Atlas tells Lily he got in touch with his uncle who has offered him a place to live. He looked down at me and I watched his eyes went right to my mouth. Have you ever been kissed, Lily? Why do all these men sound so creepy? Saying that though, I just had an internal trip down memory lane when I was reading this, and I remembered my first proper kiss with tongues and all. I was 14. He was 18. It was shit. I don't feel any particular way about that, by the way. Just FYI, just to let you know. Okay. I did end up seeing him for a month or so, and then I dumped him because he was annoying and immature. Memories. I do know people are so going to raise their eyebrows at that revelation, but I do think you can all trust me when I say I was way too smart and mature for that random bloke. To be honest though, I did look like a fetus. Rob asked, did the kiss make you dizzy or were you just drunk as fuck? And I said sober and it gave me the ick. So true. I was revolted. I was like, oh, that's what adults do with their tongue. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, bless. Oh, poor me. Not really, I don't care. Lily and Atlas kiss. Another diary entry, Lily and Atlas are making out daily now. I'm not sure how much I should divulge here since you and I have never met in person, but let me just say that if he's ever wondered what my boobs feel like, now he knows. Colleen, in what universe do I want to be reading this about a 15-year-old? Like, if a man wrote this, he'd get arrested. Or he'd just be Stephen King. Sorry. I can't for the life of me figure out how people function from day to day when they like someone this much. I can't even blame her hormones because almost all coho women give up everything just to focus on literally some guy. I'm getting pains. When we got to my house, he took the house key out of my hand and unlocked my front door. It was weird seeing how comfortable he is at my house now. He walked in and locked the door behind us. Why? I probably love to cook as much as you love to grow things. He took a few things out of the refrigerator and preheated the oven. I leaned against the counter and watched him. He wasn't even looking at a recipe. He was just pouring things into bowls and mixing them without even using a measuring cup. What are you making? I asked him. I pushed my hands with the island and hoisted myself onto it. Cookies, he said. Good Lord, Hoover. You can guesstimate cooking and frying, etc. by eye, but baking does require a system of measurement. Why can't you write anything right? For God's sake, Colleen, I can't keep letting you get away with this. The patriotic, sexy, homeless future Marine can eyeball baking recipes. Of course he can. How is this a book? For the most part, I hate men. Most relatable thing she's ever written. They get interrupted by Lily's dad, so Atlas sneaks out. My father sat down at the table and spent the next 10 minutes asking me questions about school and if I'd thought about going to college. Occasionally, when it was just the two of us, I saw glimpses of how a normal relationship with a father could be, sitting at the kitchen table with him discussing colleges and career choices and high schools. As much as I hated him most of the time, I still longed for more of these moments with him. If he could just always be the guy he was capable of being in these moments, things would look so much different. for all of us. I didn't mind this, so it's only fair to include it, but to be unfair, it's still written very simply without any real effort put into the prose. Later on, when Atlas comes over for the nightly sleepover, he gives her a gift, a small flat heart outline carved from wood, from like a branch in her garden. Modern Lily has a tattoo of this heart on her neck, by the way, for Atlas, which Ryle gets mad about later. Atlas is going to move to Boston, which is why Lily moves to Boston. And then this, I was like, what? I think I forgot about this. The next diary entry is how Lily's dad thinks the mum was flirting with a bloke. She wasn't. So he attacks her, strangles her, and attempts to rape her, and Lily walks in on it. She gets a kitchen knife, but Atlas grabs her and stops her from threatening her dad. Lily's dad then stops, and Lily's mum finds Atlas and Lily together in her room and cries. How Lily would not have loads of trauma from this that we would actually see represented in the text or scenes, I don't know. It would require thought and research, so I'm afraid, so I guess it's out of the question. In the next entry, Atlas has left for Boston. He looked at me and his eyes were sad when he said, everything is almost better in Boston, except the girls. Boston doesn't have you. That made me blush. He kissed me real sweet, and then I said to him, Boston doesn't have me yet. Someday I'll move there and I'll find you. Back in the present day, Ryle has had yet another personality transplant. Ryle, hey, naked truth commencing in 3, 2. I was worried that being in a relationship would add to my responsibilities. That's why I've avoided them my whole life. I already have enough on my plate, and seeing the stress my parents' marriage seemed to cause them and the failed marriages of some of my friends, I wanted no part in something like that. But after tonight, I realised that maybe a lot of people are just doing it wrong. Because what's happening between us doesn't feel like a responsibility, it feels like a reward, and I'll fall asleep wondering what I did to deserve it. The naked truth thing is infuriating, but we've been over that already. Also, is he 14? Why is he so emotionally stunted? If it went into some detail about his parents' marriage at all to explain his reticence towards relationships, then fine, but it doesn't. Never goes into it. Never explains, like, properly. Whatever. Chapter 12. What are you doing to those poor flowers? Alyssa asked from behind me. I clamp another silver washer closed and slide it down the stem. Steampunk. We both stand back and admire the bouquet. At least I hope she's looking at it with admiration. It turned out better than I thought it would. I used florist dip dye to turn some of the white roses a deep purple. Then I decorated the stems with different steampunk elements, like tiny metal washers and gears, and even superglued a small clock to the brown leather strap that's holding the bouquet together. Even the flowers are quirky. We have, however, found some symbolism Coho didn't intend. The steampunk can't just be applied or tacked on to literally anything, because the flowers aren't mechanical. But sure, when everything is surface level and vapid, why not just paste a veneer over whatever the hell you like? After all, you did it with the rest of this book. We've still not had the grand opening, only a soft opening, and I don't need to hear any more about Lily's soft opening. That's horrible. Alyssa, I placed the flowers on the center display. I'm pretty sure this is exactly what I was supposed to do with my life. Steampunk, she asks. I laugh and spin around. Create! My God, your indie movie level is insufferable. So I think we have had the grand opening. It's unclear. You need more employees, Alyssa says as she passes me, holding 2 bouquets of flowers. That is at 1 o'clock. There is something very juvenile about the last sentence, but I'll just add it to the pile. Ryle appears at the end of the day complaining about missing it, so it was the grand opening. It shouldn't be this hard to work out what day it is. We get everything finished and prepped for tomorrow, and then Marshall arrives just as we're finishing up. He's carrying a bag when he walks inside and drops it on the counter. He begins to pull out huge lumps of some kind of material and tosses them at each of us. I catch mine and unfold it. It's a onesie with kittens all over it. Bruins game, 3 beers, suit up. Yes, she was watching How I Met Up. Oh my fucking God. Colleen, I'm not letting you get away with this. Alyssa groans and says, Marshall, you made $6 million this year. Do we really need free beer? He shoves a finger against her lips, pushing them in the opposite directions. Don't speak like a rich girl, Issa. Blasphemy. If these people sat next to me in a restaurant, I would get up and leave. I would decorate the flower shop like revolutionary France for the next time these people came in. What kind of writing is this? Who talks like this? Even totally detached millionaires. Coho is a good writer though, she's not. Stephen King calls himself the literary equivalent of a Big Mac and fries because his writing was being consumed en masse, and whilst sometimes his writing can be a little bit simplistic, does the job. He's great. I like Stephen King, boobs and all. Coho is one of those off-brand chipsticks you get from corner shops that are so vividly coloured they disqualify themselves as food and are only made by some kind of accounting accident by a factory otherwise producing petroleum and boots. They go to a bar. I really hope this dog shit scene is in the film so Blake Lively can act like a big rich kid in her kitten onesie. I've never in my life seen so many men in onesies. Alyssa and I are the only women wearing them, but I kind of like that. A waitress comes over to take our drink order. I order red wine, and as soon as I do, Marshall practically jumps out of his seat. Wine, he yells. You're in a onesie. You don't get free wine with a onesie. He tells the waitress to bring me a beer instead. Raoul tells her to bring me wine. Alyssa wants water, and this upsets Marshall even more. He tells the waitress to bring 4 bottles of beer, and then Raoul says 2 beers, red wine, and a water. The waitress is very confused by the time she leaves our table. I just know that none of them tip. Rich man treats waiting staff terribly, more at 10. And what is this need of his to get free beer? Why is he such an eccentric idiot? I would zip his onesie over his head and then pump in exhaust fumes. Marshall throws his arms around Alyssa and kisses her. How am I supposed to try and knock you up tonight if you aren't a little wasted? Yeah, I can't have sex with my husband unless I'm drunk either. Alyssa then announces that she's pregnant. She just starts nodding and I don't know who starts crying first, me or Marshall or Alyssa. I'm going to be a dad, he yells. She's still nodding and I'm just bawling like an idiot. Why are you crying, you weirdo? You've only known her for 2 months. Also, what's so wrong with Lily that she had no friends as an adult or during college, so she latched on to the first rich woman she saw? All coho women barely have any friends, or if they do have friends, they become obsolete once a bloke comes along, and it's very odd. Then again, it would be way harder to isolate the lead with romantic tactics if they had lots of friends and healthy relationships. And I don't mean harder for the abuser. I mean harder for Coho, because she'd actually have to put some thought into her characters and plot. Then we learn about how Marshall and Alyssa got together, and it sure is something. Are you ready, guys? How did you two meet? He says. Alyssa tells the story better than I do. Alyssa perks up and leans forward. I hated him, she says. He was Ryle's best friend and he was always at the house. I thought he was so annoying. He had just moved to Ohio from Boston. He had that Boston accent. He thought it made him so cool, but I just wanted to slap him every time he spoke. Okay, a party, Alyssa says. I walked into the kitchen and Marshall was standing there pressed up against some floozy. She wasn't a floozy, he says. She was a nice girl. Tasted like Cheetos, but... Alyssa glares at him so he shuts up. She turns back to me. I lost it. I started yelling at him to take his horse to his own house. The girl was literally so terrified of me, she ran for the door and didn't come back. Cockblocker, Marshall says. Alyssa punched him in the shoulder. Anyway, after I cockblocked him, I ran to my room, embarrassed that I did that. It was out of pure jealousy, and I didn't even realize I liked him that way until I saw his hands on some other girl's ass. I threw myself on my bed and started crying. A few minutes later, he walked into my room and asked me if I was okay. I rolled over and yelled, I like you, you stupid face. Okay, good to know that we now hate Alyssa. She calls women whores if they threaten her, so I guess she's just another stand-in for Coho. Anyway, she sounds terrible and not like someone who should have any kind of money or influence, just like Coho. Then Alyssa lets slip that they had an older brother. Ryle stands up and takes a sip of beer. He sets it back down on the table and says, we had an older brother. He passed away when we were kids. Such a great night, ruined by a simple question. Grow up! Every character must have emotional responses dialed up to a minimum of 9 at all times, otherwise it isn't romantic or dramatic enough. You have to behave like teens on coke. I spend the rest of the evening listening to stories about them growing up. I'm not sure I've ever laughed as hard as I have tonight. Can we hear some of those stories? No? Fuck me? Okay, sure. Number 1, they didn't grow up. They're still atrocious. Number 2, trust me, bro, these stories were literally so funny. This is like a romantic novel written by H.P. Lovecraft. The tales were too hilarious to relate to the mortal ear, except Alyssa is relating them. So do some work, Coho. This is your job. They go back to Lily's and Ryle announces to her ex-flatmate that he's Lily's boyfriend. He didn't ask her or anything, but I guess that's romantic. The door closes behind her and Ryle raises an eyebrow. I don't think your roommate likes me very much. You'd be surprised. I didn't think she liked me either, but yesterday she asked me to be a bridesmaid in her wedding. I think she's just hoping for free flowers though. She's very opportunistic. That's because all women are either whores or vultures. Then they go to have sex. His mouth slides up my thigh until... Yeah, best day ever. I pity you. We really need to stop letting women who have only ever had dry missionary with the lights off write romantic novels. Chapter 13, a month later. Lily, I think I like you too much, he says, as name 5 things you like about her, as I make my way over to him. I scrunch up my nose as he sits on the couch and pulls me onto his lap. Too much? That doesn't sound like a compliment. That's because I don't know if it is, he says. He adjusts my legs on either side of him, then wraps his arms around my waist. This is my first real relationship. I don't know if I'm supposed to like you this much yet. I don't want to scare you away. It's such a red flag that his first relationship is by the time he's 30, and not because he couldn't be with someone, but because women were previously disposable to him after one shag. There is not a universe in which this bloke becomes perfect boyfriend material. I know ultimately at the 50% mark, he's not, but he's written as though he is because Ho-Ho was in love with Ho-Ho the Pokemon. Ho-Ho was in love with him before that happens. Ryle just doesn't seem remotely like a real person, which isn't surprising when you consider Ho-Ho wanted him to be both the model of an abusive husband and a romantic lead that she wanted the audiences to fall in love with, as she herself had done. But he's like Schrodinger's arsehole. Ryle's in a superposition where he is both a romantic lead and abusive. That's why he sounds so conflicting, because Ho-Ho couldn't make up her mind until the 50% mark. I smile. Well, in all fairness, you're a little different from when I first met you. You aren't so anti-girlfriend anymore. That's because you make it easy, he says, sliding a hand inside the back of my shirt. It's easy being with you. Easy being with Lily equals she goes along with whatever he does like a puppy. Also, how would he know if it was easier being with Lily, considering he's never been with a woman longer than a single night? He has no frame of reference for it. So he's either stupid or a liar or both. And again, what traits of hers is he so in love with? Is it that she's the lead and just happens to be there? Ho-Ho, do some work. Right. He then starts using his stethoscope to measure her heartbeats. I hated this bit. To see how racy he can get her heart. And it goes on for pages. Pages of him being like, 120. Not 140 beats per minute yet. I am not satisfied. Yeah, we're all unsatisfied, Ryle. They have sex and he's still measuring her heartbeat. They finish up and then Ho-Ho's boy mum tendencies jump out. The thought of seeing him interact with his mother makes me smile. Why? Who cares? Considering Ho-Ho is the mother of 3 men and is 100% a boy mum, I immediately feel sorry for any of the girlfriends those guys might bring home. But then again, why are her sweet little baby angels bringing home whores in the first place? She asks about his mother. He laughs. My mother? Well, my mother's very overbearing, very judgmental, especially of the people she loves the most. She's never missed a single church service, and I've never heard her refer to my father as anything other than Dr. Kincaid. Bland picture you've painted. I'd rather have attended this church service. His parents live in England. Do they ever visit you in Boston? Not really. My mother hates flying. That happens later on, though, doesn't it? So Alyssa and I fly to England a couple times a year. She does want to meet you, though, so you might be going with us on the next trip. I like how he didn't even ask, and I just imagine he would have chucked her over his shoulder and forcibly put her on the plane like a strong masculine bloke should. He presses a few keys and begins to play the voicemail. Hey, sweetheart, it's your mum. Haven't spoke to you since yesterday. Miss you. Give Lily a hug from me. You do still see her, right? Alyssa says you can't stop talking about her. She is still your girlfriend, right? Okay, Gretchen's here. We're having high tea. Love you. Kiss, kiss. I press my face against his chest and laugh. We've only been dating a few months. How much do you talk about me? He pulls up my hand between us and kisses it. Too much, Lily. Way too much. Firstly, high tea. You fucking what, mate? I had to look up what it is. And the article said that Brits still take the time to enjoy the tradition, just not every day, reserving it for holidays or special occasions. Do we now? News to me. Secondly, I don't know what he's got to talk about. Lily is positively dull. We've been in her head this whole book, and I doubt you could fill a single page with interesting things about her or things that she has said. She has no noticeable personality, no wit, no unique worldview. She's just uncommonly fuckable, apparently, and everyone inexplicably loves her. Then they have sex again. They make love. Chapter 14. Another month later, and Ryle comes over. I hear him walk into the kitchen. When I said I was wearing just an apron, I meant it. I'm not even wearing panties. I don't think I've ever been so bored by a naked woman. Ryle is happy because he has a hot girlfriend and he gets to do that's what he says, and he gets to do a rare surgery separating twins conjoined at the head on Monday. Attached right here. We've been studying them since they were born. It's a very rare surgery. Very rare. For the first time, I think I'm genuinely turned on by him as a doctor. I mean, I admire his drive. I admire his dedication. But seeing how sexy he is about what he's doing for... But seeing how excited he is about what he's doing for a living is seriously sexy. I don't know if the thought of a high-risk surgery on a pair of infants would get me in the mood, but whatever floats your boat, Lily, you little freak. Is this what they meant when they said that sex with you was addicting? Because you're just weird. Also... getting drunk, because they get drunk, at the Saturday, when he has a risky surgery on the day, sounds stupid to me. He's 30, not 21. What if he has a 2-day hangover? or if his hands are shaking, whatever. Ryle has made a future reservation at the same restaurant Atlas works at, and Lily is trying to convince him not to go. I failed to tell him why I really don't want to go back there, but how do you tell your brand new boyfriend that you're trying to avoid your first love? Well, if you aren't 12 years old, it's actually easy to have a conversation with your partner. Mind blowing, I know. And no, this isn't difficult because Ryle is violent. If Ryle was swapped out with Ridge, Warren, Ben, any of the other blokes, they'd all be supremely jealous as well. It's such a non-issue. It could only really occur in a romance novel where people's emotions are set to hair triggers. Lily burns the food, and Ryle, because he's a smart doctor, tries to take a hot dish out of the oven without oven gloves, and he burns his right hand. In my original review, I was definitely speed reading because I remembered the part wrong. The way I first read it was that Ryle burned himself and Lily, drunk, gets in his way, laughing in his face. This book is marketed as romance, so I didn't expect to see any physical abuse, especially as we are now at the 50% mark, 50% of the way through mark. So here's what actually happens. I was wrong. He burns himself. She laughs at him. His arm comes out of nowhere and slams against her, and she gets knocked off balance and hits her face on a cabinet door handle. He says, "It's not funny. This hand is my career." And then he starts to fuss over when he realizes what he's done. He pulls me against him and starts kissing the top of my head. "I'm so sorry. I burned my hand. I panicked. You were laughing and I'm so sorry. It all happened so fast. I didn't mean to push you, Lily. I'm sorry." Not to be biased, but I do think it's easy to see how I got the wrong impression initially. She pushes him off of her and he cuts his surgery hand on the broken glass from the casserole dish. I'm full of so much anger, but somehow concern for his hand still finds its way out. I grab a towel and shove it into his fist. There's so much blood. It's his right hand, his surgery Monday. I tried to help stop the bleeding, but I'm shaking too bad. "Ryle, your hand." He pulls his hand away, and with his good hand, he lifts my chin. "Fuck the hand, Lily. I don't care about my hand. Are you okay?" He's looking back and forth between my eyes frantically as he assesses the cut on my face. My shoulders begin to shake and huge hurt-filled tears spill down my cheeks. "No." I'm a little in shock, and I know he can hear my heart breaking with just that one word because I can feel it in every part of me. The realization of what had just happened hurts worse than the actual action. Ryle wraps his hand around my neck and desperately holds me against him. "I'm so sorry, Lily. God, I'm so sorry." He buries his face against my hair, squeezing me with every emotion inside of him. "Please don't hate me. Please." His voice slowly starts to become Ryle's voice again, and I feel it in my stomach, in my toes. His entire career depends on his hand, so it has to say something that he's not even worried about it, right? I'm so confused. There's too much happening. The smoke, the wine, the broken glass, the food splattered everywhere, the blood, the anger, the apologies. It's too much. "I'm so sorry," he says again. I pull back and his eyes are red and I've never seen him look so sad. I panicked. I didn't mean to push you away. I just panicked. All I could think about was the surgery Monday and my hand, and "I'm so sorry." He presses his mouth to mine and breathes me in. He's not like my father. He can't be. He's nothing like that uncaring bastard. We're both upset and kissing and confused and sad. I've never felt anything like this moment, so ugly and painful. But somehow the only thing that he's is the hurt just caused by this man is this man. My tears are soothed by his sorrow, my emotions soothed with his mouth against mine, his hand gripping me like he never wants to let go. This scene is a bit confusing, and let me walk you through it. He goes for a dish barehanded because the plot requires him to, so suddenly he's an idiot and not a smart doctor, and then he burns his vital surgery hands and gets laughed at by Lily, who needs to laugh at him for the plot, because otherwise she wouldn't have, seen by her concern for him later. Ryle then shoves/hits her because of his sheer panic about his hand, then recovers, then hurts his hand even worse, but doesn't react and only shows concern for Lily, who suddenly isn't laughing because that side of her personality has been discarded for plot purposes, and now Ryle doesn't even care about his most important day at work ever, despite bleeding out onto the floor. He doesn't even attend to his very real injury because he has Lily to tend to. Did anyone else look at this scene before it was printed? And I'm also just fully on my own side here. And again, I know this is meant to be about domestic abuse, but it's the way that all coho females just accept any level of awful behavior from men. If Ryle never physically hurt Lily again, this would just be yet another standard romance book from coho. Let me remind you of all of them. Layla. Bloke tried to drug his girlfriend to commune with a ghost and have sex with the ghost, and then drowned same girlfriend so the ghost could have her body back. Ugly Love. Bloke uses woman for sex, has inappropriate relationship with his stepsister, afterwards tries to use women for sex, then says his ex-girlfriend/stepsister's name during the sex, and then the woman just lets him use her like a jizz rag. Just like, it literally says, "I just let him use my body because he needs it in this moment." November 9. Ben ruins Fallon's life by setting her house on fire years prior, gives her burn scars, ruins her acting career due to it, sexually assaults her in a club. She forgives him. They end up together. Verity. Bloke cheats on his seemingly catatonic wife with random woman, then kills wife in front of woman, then kills another woman in front of the woman in the epilogue/extra chapters. Maybe someday, bloke cheats on long-term girlfriend with the FMC. It's justified for 300 pages, then girlfriend dumps bloke. Bloke admits to FMC that she is his second choice. FMC is happy about this. Maybe not. Warren rapes Bridget, but that's okay because she orgasms and he knows what's best for her body. Writing and saying all of that makes me want to die. Lily is confused and upset and, what else, horny, so we are treated to this desecration of the English language. I need to feel his sorrow, his regret. I get both of these things in the way he kisses me. I spread my legs for him and his sorrow comes in another form. All the while, what's happening with his hand? It's still bleeding out everywhere. For 15 seconds, I saw a side of him that wasn't him. That wasn't me. I laughed at him when I should have been concerned. He shoved me, see, plot purposes. He shoved me when he should have never touched me. I pushed him away and caused him to cut his hand. It was awful. The whole thing, the entire 15 seconds it lasted was absolutely awful. I never want to think about it again. It's almost as though the entire scenario was concocted against any kind of established patterns or logic just to inject drama into your lives. It's not good writing. I'll be right back, I tell him. He kisses me one more time and rolls off of me. I walk to the bathroom and close the door. I look in the mirror and gasp. Blood. In my hair, on my cheeks, on my body. It's all his blood. I grab a rag and try to wash some off, and then I look under the sink for the first aid kit. I have no idea how bad his hand is. First he burned it, then he sliced it open. Not even an hour after, he was just telling me how important this surgery was to him. No more wine. We're never allowed to drink vintage wine again. I grab the box from under the sink and open the bedroom door. He's walking back into the bathroom from the kitchen with a small bag of ice. He holds it up. For your eye, he says. I hold up the first aid kit. For your hand. We both smile and then sit back down on the bed. He leans against the headboard while I pull his hand into my lap. The whole time I'm dressing his wound, he's holding the bag of ice against my eye. You can definitely see where, having initially not read the scene properly, I had mixed signals and really thought, is this just one big accident? And the story was more about how Lily had to work through the trauma that her dad left her, which is none, by the way, because she never actually gets any help or even really thinks about it that much in like an emotive way. And that's because Coho is an incompetent writer. And I think you can see how it then took the second scene of physical violence a bit later on for me to then go, oh, right, okay, it's about abuse. Why is it categorized as a romance then? Also, how bad is his hand wound? Because it seemed vital earlier, pissing out blood everywhere, and now it's apparently fine, and Lily also knows how to dress a wound competently. Lily, he whispers. I look up at him. His head is resting against the headboard, and it looks like he wants to cry. I feel terrible, he says. If I could take it back. I know, I say, cutting him off. I know, Ryle. It was terrible. You pushed me. You made me question everything I thought I knew about you. But I know you feel bad about it. We can't take it back. I don't want to bring it up again. I secure the bandage around his hand and look him in the eye. But Ryle, if anything like this ever does happen again, I'll know that this time wasn't an accident and I'll leave you without a second thought. Ryle clears up the kitchen. He brushes his hand down my cheek and I can see in his eyes and the way he touches me that he deserves at least one chance of forgiveness. I feel like if I don't find a way to forgive him, I'll somewhat be placing blame on him for the resentment I still hold for my father. He's not like my father. Ryle loves me. He's never come out and said it before, but I know he does. And I love him. What happened in the kitchen tonight is something I'm confident won't happen again. Not after seeing how upset he is that he hurt me. All humans make mistakes. What determines a person's character aren't the mistakes we make. It's how we take those mistakes and turn them into lessons rather than excuses. If this was written by anyone else, I could easily say, yes, Lily is rationalizing what just happened. It's setting the story up for Ryle to keep abusing her and Lily to keep justifying it, and I would leave it at that. But because it's Colleen, I can't leave it at that. I'm sure that was also her intention with the passage. I feel like I'm being too fair there, but you can't ignore how every other book of hers have men being disgusting and the women rationalizing it. The only difference between Ryle and any other Coho bloke is he physically hurts her, but that's it. Also, let's just take a moment to mention how bluntly and lazily this is written. Where is the Big Mac when you need him? None by Stevie King possess the lyrical skills to bring this thing to life. Coho is just flatly telling us Lily's psychological process and then mashes the theme against our face, like Ryle mashes his bits against Lily's bits, Lily's soft opening. Except it's not arousing, it's just irritating. Then they tell each other I love you. Chapter 15. I arrive at the restaurant 15 minutes late. Right when I was about to close tonight, I had a customer come in to order flowers for a funeral. I couldn't turn them away because ... Sadly ... Funerals are the best business for florists. It's the double ellipses for me. Good writing, my clenched asshole. They go to Atlas's restaurant on a double date with Alyssa and Marshall. Ryle lied to his sister about Lily slipping in olive oil and hurting her eye. We pick out, which obviously is a red flag, because if it was truly an accident, you would kind of just say we had a bit of a whoopsie days. I don't know, that was stupid, sorry. We had a bit of an altercation, but things are fine. We pick out 3 desserts for the table. The 4 of us spend the time waiting for it to be served, discussing baby names. No, Alyssa says to Marshall, we are not naming this baby after a state. But I love Nebraska, he whines. Idaho? Lily drops her head in her hands. This is going to be the demise of our marriage. Demise, Marshall says. That's actually a good name. That is the most normal Colleen Hoover naming convention. At least the baby isn't being called DM, as in Carpe Diem. Reminders of him. Look it up if you don't believe me. The chef comes out and it's Atlas because he's the chef, waiter, owner, dishwasher of the restaurant. I hope he has a different hat for each role. Atlas notices Lily's eye and Ryle's hand and leaves quickly. Lily goes to the women's restroom to have a breather, and then Atlas comes into the bathroom to see her and locks them in together. The way this will be framed as he's being protective, but again, every single Coho book I've ever read has the romantic male lead locking a woman in a room or physically blocking her exit, so this does not get a pass from me. Atlas laughs, but his face falls flat. Leave him. Leave him? Jesus, he thinks this is something entirely else. I take a step forward and shake my head. It's not like that, Atlas. It wasn't like that. He's a good person. He tilts his head and leans it forward a little bit. Funny, you sound just like your mother. His words sting. I immediately try to reach around him for the door, but he grabs my wrist. Ugh! Leave him, Lily. Grabbing someone is okay if you're trying to save them, silly. I stare at him for a moment, unsure how to take his words. He's still raging on the inside. I can see it. But on the outside, he's calm, collected. Allowing me to leave. Allowing me to leave is insane. The bar for co-host men is so low you don't have to worry about tripping over it because it's actually underground and it has become plumbing and consequently full of shit. Then Ryle sees them in the toilet together and it causes drama. Then Atlas attacks Ryle and threatens to cut off his precious hand, which is kind of based low-key. Ryle lets out a disbelieving laugh, then points at Atlas, but he's still looking at me. This is Atlas? The homeless boy you pity shagged? The classism really pops out, but please keep telling me, Coho Core Demo, how Ryle is actually a good guy who just made a few mistakes. This is what they legit believe. It's all over BookTok. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. It is infuriating. It is worrying. Anyway, Ryle and Atlas fight more over this because chicks love men fighting over them. Atlas then kicks Ryle out of the restaurant, so Lily follows him dutifully. I follow Ryle outside. He's walking towards the parking lot. I run to catch up to him and he just stops and punches at the air. I didn't bring my car, he yells, frustrated. It's just funny imagery to me, someone just in a parking lot air punching. Like funny in a pathetic kind of way. And after all, it's not like you couldn't find a car to take you home in a city. This is a disaster. Better yell about it. Better punch the air. They go home together and they get into an argument and then resolve things immediately. The only key thing to note is Ryle doesn't know how to deal with his jealousy because it is his first relationship. And if he hadn't been a sexist, not sexy, bachelor all his life, he'd be better equipped to deal with things like jealousy over exes because it's something you need to learn how to deal with when you're younger, not when you're a 30-year-old man, because it's kind of pathetic then. But Hoover just loves the idea of this almost eternal playboy bachelor who tries to become the perfect boyfriend just for you because your vagina is somehow magical. These are essentially comic books for women. They're trash reading, printed on the thickest imaginable paper with a large font. Hentai has better plots than this. Chapter 16. Ryle's hand is fine for the surgery, so Lily is happy, and Alyssa knows the deal with Atlas so that they can't go back to the restaurant. But then Atlas shows up at Lily's shop. She nods and slips inside my office, closing the door behind her. He asked for you, and I know you're with my brother, and I'm with child, but can we please take a moment to silently admire the perfection that is that man? And I just know, with all of my heart, mind, and soul, that Atlas is literally just some bloke. How much more interesting would it have been in terms of story and characterization if he hadn't been male perfection? But then that would ruin the wank fantasy that is this story. Alyssa then starts flirting with Atlas and offering him a job, which is weird when your friend is dating your brother, but okay. Atlas then gives her a gift and says he's sorry for saying that she sounds like her mother. He gives her his phone number on a bit of paper and says to keep it hidden and contact him if she needs him, and then Lily tells him she never said that he was a pity shag. The corner of Atlas's mouth twitches, and I'm not sure if he's trying not to smile or not to frown. He faces me straight on. Believe me, Lily, I know it wasn't a pity shag. I was there. He walks out the door, but his words knock me straight back into my seat. Only my seat is no longer there. It's still on the other side of my office, now I'm on the floor. Why is this so cartoonishly dramatic? Lily opens her gift from Atlas. There's a picture of Ellen DeGeneres on the front. The title is Seriously, I'm Kidding. I laugh and then open the book, gasping quietly when I see it's autographed. I run my fingers over the words on the inscription. Lily, Atlas says, just keep swimming. Ellen DeGeneres, I bet Ellen spat in it. I truly hope this is in the film, so Blake has to swoon like the worst kind of Disney adult. I run my fingers over her signature. Then I drop the book on my desk, press my forehead against it, and fake cry against the cover. This is like the third time she's done a fake cry to herself. Why? It is so weird of you to write this, Coho. Like, sorry, are we not visualizing it properly? I'm gonna attempt to do it. I'm going to fake cry over this bottle. So weird. Who does that? Who would do that? That's not a quirky thing to do. I'm so mad. I'm so mad about like the stupidest part. Chapter 17. It's after 7 before I get home. Ryle called an hour ago and said he wouldn't be coming over tonight. The whatever the big word he used, you're so annoying and you're stupid, shut up. I walk in the door to my quiet apartment. I change into my quiet pajamas. I eat a quiet sandwich. Then I lie down in my quiet bedroom and open my quiet new book, hoping it can quiet my emotions. Be quiet. I place a bookmark on the page where I stopped reading and I close it. Did you really? Because I thought that you put bookmarks in random places. Silly me. She reads her final diary entry. Dear Ellen, you can tell when I'm being so pedantic when I say something like that about bookmarks. I'm being so petty. Dear Ellen, most of the time I'm thankful you don't know I exist and that I've never emailed you any of these things I write to you. But sometimes, especially tonight, I wish you did. I just need someone to talk to about everything I'm feeling. Respectfully, Lily, Ellen wouldn't give two shits about you or your problems even if she knew of them. Atlas has left for Boston in the flashbacks, but returns on the day of Lily's birthday to have sex with her legally for the first time. That was a choice. But before that, Atlas tells her he went to the abandoned house to kill himself, not to live there. My hands went up to my mouth because I had no idea things gotten that bad to him. My hands went up to my mouth isn't something that you would naturally write in a letter or even a diary, is it? It's something you'd write in first-person narrative as you're experiencing the scene to give the readers more description. But in this context of a fake letter diary thing, it sounds unnatural and quite clunky. Anyway, Atlas was going to endgame until he saw Lily in her bedroom, and that was enough to fix his depression. He watched me walk around my bedroom for a while, watched me lie on the bed and write in my journal, and then he put down the razor blade because he said it'd been a month since life had given him any sort of feeling at all, and looking at me gave him a little bit of feeling. Enough not to be numb enough to end things that night. Then a day or two later is when I took him the food and set it on his back porch. I guess you already know the rest of that story. You saved my life, Lily, he said to me. And you weren't even trying. Did you think I was being facetious? Did you think I was exaggerating? This is the thing, dear audience of mine. Like, I never exaggerate. Not even a little. Not even a lot. I just don't. I just say it as it is. And I'm never taken seriously. When am I going to get my dues? Anyway, it's that easy to get over severe depression without therapy or medication. Just get good scrubs. It's some kind of weird power fantasy that Coho is engaging in. Lily is so magical just by existing. She literally saved a man's life who was comically holding a razor blade before seeing every angle of her bedroom somehow. The drama, the dial is turned to 12. He leaned forward and kissed that spot between my shoulder and my neck that he always kisses. I like that he did it again. I don't like much about my body, but that spot on my collarbone has become my favourite part of me. She writes some variation of this in every book, you know. I got kissed here, and now it's my favorite thing. Her eye color is brown, so now it's my favorite color, blah, blah, blah. Truly, if you've read one Coho, you've basically read them all. She loves her repetition that much. And I'm also glad to see the trope of gorgeously plain woman who dislikes her body is at play again. Can't do without it. Atlas tells her thank you and that he's going to the military for 4 years and she needs to live her life. I knew what he was saying, that he was leaving for the military and didn't want me to hold on to him while he was gone. He wasn't really breaking up with me because we weren't ever really together. We'd just been two people who helped each other when we needed it and got our heart fused together along the way. That is literally just the climax to Heartbones, a different book by Coho, except the boy went to prison instead of the military and they got together years later. You're just recycling everything you can. You can't trick me. I pay attention, Colleen. Unlike your core demographic, I have information retention. Atlas promises to find her again once his life is good enough, and she knows she can find him in Boston in the future. They then have sex for the first time. I love you, Lily. Everything you are, I love you. I know those words get thrown around a lot, especially by teenagers, a lot of the times prematurely and without much merit. But when he said them to me, I knew he wasn't saying it like he was in love with me. It wasn't that kind of I love you. Imagine all the people you meet in your life. There are so many. They come in waves, trickling in and out with the tide. Some waves are much bigger and make... This is nothing on the wave monologue in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, does it? Sometimes the waves bring with them things from the deep in the bottom of the sea, and they leave those things tossed on the shore, imprints against the grains of sand that prove the waves had once been there long after the tide recedes. That was what Atlas was telling me when he said I love you. He was letting me know that I was the biggest wave he'd ever come across. Okay. And I brought so much with me that my impressions would always be there, even when the tide rolled out. What 16-year-old speaks like this? Atlas gives her a fridge magnet souvenir from Boston, the same one that modern Lily has. They get interrupted by Lily's dad because Lily didn't lock her door, and her dad attacks Atlas with a baseball bat and almost kills him and shocks Lily so much she has to have an ambulance too to get her out of the shock. She never has any trauma from this though, like never any minor PTSD or any like panic attacks that actually come up as a result of this. Lily's dad gets away with almost killing Atlas because Atlas was homeless and Lily's dad is the mayor, and people think that Atlas took advantage of Lily. That's the story that they go with. That's the end of the diaries. One could argue, did he not take advantage a little bit anyway by having sex with her immediately when she turned 16 at his big age of almost 19? Anyway. Seeing Atlas in his restaurant for the first time filled me with so many emotions, I didn't know how to process them. I was glad to see that he was okay. I was happy that he looked healthy, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit heartbroken that he never tried to find me like he promised. I love him. I still do, and I always will. He was a huge wave that left a lot of imprints on my life, and I'll feel the weight of that love until I die. I've accepted that. I was discussing this with Rachel, and I wonder if it would be better if this subplot just didn't exist. We, as female readers, I've written a big chunk of text here, so I'm just going to read directly from my screen, so I'm not going to pretend I'm coming up with this on the fly. I can't come up with anything off the fly anyway, because I can't even speak half the time. We, as female readers, are somewhat lucky. I can't even pronounce lucky. The majority of men. We, as female readers, are somewhat lucky that the majority of men haven't read Colleen or Bully or Penelope Douglas or books of these ilk, because it reinforces the excuses a lot of violently / sexually aggressive men use. Like, women like it, they play hard to get, persistence beats resistance. No doesn't really mean no. I've heard persistence beat resistance used on an episode of Made in Chelsea from like a bloke who just kept going at a woman until she gave in and said yes. Disgusting. And with this subplot specifically, Ryle will continue to get mad over Atlas, over the tattoo and the magnet, and use it as an excuse to hurt Lily. And I just know with my heart and soul that if a bunch of men read this, you would get a few of them thinking, well, what does Lily expect? She's not, but she's emotionally cheating on Ryle. She deserves it, especially like at the end when Lily's like, oh, I've always loved Atlas and I always will. Like, men will really do a lot with that. If you think I'm kidding, you should see the video that I did on Black Mirror and how so many men justified the behavior of bad men in the show, in different episodes, because, oh, but their wife cheated on them, so it's okay that he drunk drove, or it's okay that it's understandable that he killed the old man and let the little girl go in White Christmas, let the little girl die in the wilderness. It's understandable. He just found out that his wife had an affair baby. No, shut up. 2 people died. It's understandable. Behave. Light spoilers for The Fall of the House of Usher. The subreddit for The Fall of the House of Usher was, so I say that too many times, The Fall of the House of Usher, was much the same about the one woman who goes to the sex party and later has her teeth pulled out by her husband as she's covered in acid burns, and he doesn't change any of her dressing and it's getting infected and stuff, and he takes her from the hospital to abuse her at home because he finds out she went to the sex party. She didn't do anything, but she went to the sex party. So he starts abusing her at home. The subreddit mods, I saw this with my own 2 eyes, had to ban posts and accounts of men saying that it was justified because she went to the sex party. Like, he pulls out all of her teeth. You don't see it happen, but you see afterwards. Justified, apparently. Understandable, apparently. Anyway, this book would be a bit stronger without the Atlas subplot, and also wouldn't have a man saving Lily, which whilst might not happen overtly in this book, it's certainly how Lily frames it in the sequel, because that's what Rachel tells me anyway, and we'll find out soon when we cover the sequel. So there, I'm always right. Part 2, chapter 18. Right, I hope you guys can't see this, yeah? My mascara is so shit, it flaked off, and then I waited for it to dry and I tried to like scratch it off, and it just made things worse. And it's the Milani, I'm trying to de-influence right now. It's the Milani highly rated by who? By who, Milani? Highly rated lash extensions tubing mascara. This stuff sucks. I only used it because I've ran out of my other stuff and I might as well have not. Should have done it. It's so shit. It flakes, and then when you take it off later, when you wash your face, it like washes off like all stringy, which gives me the ick. It sucks. It's so flaky, so shit. Anyway, shall we get on with the video? Oh, by the way, I've watched Ends with Us. I went to watch it today, and then I tried to film a review, but I didn't have anything written down, and then I gave up. So I'll do it tomorrow, it'll be fine. More important that we get this out, because I just fucking knew that as soon as the film came out, other YouTubers would do a video book review. Chapter 18. It's months later. Ryle lives with Lily, and Lily is meeting Ryle's mother for the first time. Does she know we live together? I ask him. Is she okay with that? I mean, we aren't married. She goes to church every Sunday. Oh no, Ryle. What if your mother thinks I'm a blasphemous whore? Ryle nudges his head towards the apartment door, and I spin round and see his mother standing in the doorway, a layer of shock on her face. Mother, Ryle says, meet Lily, my blasphemous whore. Oh dear God. His mother reaches for me and pulls me in for a hug, and her laughter is everything I need to get me through this moment. Lily, she says, pushing me out to arm's length so she can get a good look at me. Sweetie, I don't think you're a blasphemous whore. You're the angel I've been praying would land in Ryle's lap for the last 10 years. She ushers us into the apartment. Ryle's father is next to greet me with a hug. No, definitely not a blasphemous whore, he says. Not like Marshall here, who sank his teeth into my little girl when she was only 17. He glares back at Marshall, who is sitting on the couch. You are all very weird. Really slinging the word whore around in this family, aren't they? Alyssa must have got it from them. Also, side note, what personality trait is it of Lily's which endears them to her so easily? Is it just because, like, she's extraordinary bangable? Alyssa talks about her pregnancy with Lily. Alyssa holds her hands on her stomach, smiling. These last 2.5 months are going to be hell, she says. I'm so ready to meet her. Me too. I can't wait to be an aunt. Can't wait for you and Ryle to have a baby, she says. I fall onto my back and put my hands behind my head. I don't know if he wants any. We've never really talked about it. Doesn't matter if he doesn't want any, she says. He will. He didn't want a relationship before you. He didn't want to get married before you. And I feel a proposal coming on any month now. A, how have you never talked about it? B, the pro-natalist agenda is disgusting. Stop forcing people to have kids who clearly aren't suited for it or just don't want to. Ryle overhears Lily saying that she'd marry him immediately, and then he's like, okay, let's go to Vegas and do it. My headache is building. How's it building? I took pills. It was building because of this. Because of her. Because of Blake Lively. Because of them all. Are you sure about this, Ryle? He runs his hands through my hair and pulls my face to his, brushing his lips against mine. Naked truth. Yeah, he whispers. I'm so excited to be your husband, I could piss my damn pants. What the hell, dude?
Hey, look, everybody. Billy peed his pants.
Of course I peed my pants. Everybody my age pees their pants. It's the coolest.
It's very horribly written, but then again, if I see the words naked truth used one more time, I'm gonna shit. Chapter 19. Lily gets married in Vegas, but it's now 6 weeks later and we see none of it. It's been 6 weeks, Mom. You gotta get over it. My mother sighs into the phone. You're my only daughter. I can't help it if I've been dreaming about your wedding your whole life. She's been dreaming of a huge wedding and dress shopping and cake tasting since the day I was born. This is also so weird of you, and I thank God every day that my mother was never like this at any point in my life. Like, imagine having a little girl and thinking, oh boy, I can't wait to sell you off to some chump bloke one day and make your special day about me somehow. Maybe I'll wear white to the wedding. Shut up. My mother laughs. And then she sighs, as long as you give me grandchildren someday, I guess I can get over it. I also thank the Lord that my mother never gave a shit about this either, has never forced any of those ideals onto me of being some chump's incubator. Also, people like this say this stuff, yeah? And then they barely help out when the baby is here and it's ruining your life, ruining your sleep. Or they go the other way and become so over-controlling and try to parent your child their way because they never noticed how much their way of doing things fucks you up. Anyway, Ryle is open to having kids because of course he is, but he makes Lily promise to never go vegan because it's Coho speaking, and clearly Coho and he doesn't give a single shit about the planet that his ugly imaginary kids will one day inhabit, doesn't care about non-human sentience, just doesn't care. I mean, he doesn't care about Lily either, considering he starts, you know, abusing her, but I digress. He made me promise to vote. He said I was allowed to vote Democratic, Republican, or Independent as long as I made sure to vote. We shook on it. I would bet good money on knowing who Coho is going to vote for this year. But she says it's the other one. Well, I wonder who she's actually going to vote for. Anyway, Boston to Vegas is an almost 6-hour flight, and they took a midnight flight over. And they chatted the entire time before getting married. So they'd be getting married at like 6 a.m., being up all night on it. Are you guys okay? Alyssa is doing a few weeks and she's forcing as much couple time on us as she can. She's worried we'll stop coming to visit after the baby is born, which I know is ridiculous. The visits will just grow more frequent. I already love my niece more than any of them anyway. Okay, maybe not. But it's close. Why? Give me 5 good reasons. A fetus don't have a personality yet. Neither does a newborn baby. God, I'm so much more interesting than a baby. Why doesn't everyone automatically love me instead? Lily hears a crash and Ryle looks furious. He found Atlas's note under Lily's phone cover, which is, poorly orchestrated drama for plot purposes, but okay. Then he breaks Lily's phone before leaving. Lily chases after him and then Ryle throws her down the stairs and knocks her out. It knocks her out. When she comes to, Ryle is tending to her and lies that she fell down the stairs, but she realizes it's not true. You fell, he said calmly, about 5 minutes ago. Right after I found out what a liar I married, he places something on my pillow next to me. If you need anything, I'm sure you can call this number. Then he storms off, angry. Don't happen like that in the film. Then he comes back to hit his own head against a wall a few times. Yeah, he does actually do that. I thought I was just writing words. I thought I was doing what Colleen Hoover should do, writing words to see what happens. That is her thought process, actually. He bangs his head against the wall several times and interrogates Lily about Atlas. She says nothing's going on and then she kicks him out the flat. Chapter 20. Ryle, this doesn't happen either. Ryle is sleeping in the film outside the front door because he's pathetic and Lily ignores him. They really toned down like how pathetic Ryle is in the film because I don't think it just would have been believable. Like, spoilers, like I care. He doesn't beg her for a one-night stand at her door because that is just... Anyway, Lily is better than me because I would have curb stomped him at that doorway, but oh well. Lily goes to buy a new phone and then goes to work where both Ryle and Alyssa are there. I can feel my blood pressure about to rise and boy, I hope not because my head is going to pound. Ryle, Alyssa whispers, what did you do to her? She walks around the counter and pulls me in for a hug. Oh, Lily, she says, running her hand down my back. She pulls back with tears in her eyes and her reaction confuses me. She obviously knows Ryle is responsible, but if that's the case, it seems like she would be attacking him or at least yelling. She turns back to Ryle and it don't happen this way in the film either. I think Justin really changed quite a few things around. He's looking up at me apologetically, longingly, like he wants to reach out and hug me, but he's scared to death to touch me. He should be. You need to tell her, Alyssa says to Ryle. He instantly drops his hands in his head. Nope, other way around. Scratch that, reverse it. Tell her, Alyssa says, her voice angrier now. She has the right to know, Ryle. She's your wife. If you don't tell her, I will. Ryle's shoulders roll forward and his head is fully pressed against the counter now. Whatever it is Alyssa wants to tell me is so agonized he can't even look at me. I clench my stomach, feeling the angst deeper than my soul. Alyssa spins towards me and it's the way that the whole angst deeper than my soul. Like every Coho pro tag feels that for every Coho male because they all have trauma backstories. This is none of this is new. This is recycled material at this point. Alyssa spins towards me and puts her hands on my shoulders. Hear him out, she begs. I'm not asking you to forgive him because I have no idea what happened last night, but just please, as my sister-in-law and best friend, give my brother a chance to talk to you. How about you fuck off too, you baby-brained twit? Why is this whore of a woman telling this other whore of a woman to hear this whore of a man out when she fears he's hurt her? And how are the flower sales doing? Lily goes home to chat to Ryle, and Ryle trauma dumps that when he was 6 years old, he accidentally shot and killed his 7-year-old brother. Rob was so baffled at this point, I took him to see it again with us in the cinema, actually. He said he shot his brother, so he had to Sparta kick his wife down the stairs. What? Sorry, but there's an excuse, isn't it? Oh, I accidentally killed my brother. Welp, time to take out my anger and trauma on my wife. Shut up, you freak. Go to therapy. Also, because this is Coho, we need to have some serious trauma dumping. So here you go. Trigger warning, brains. She was only 5 when it happened. Emerson was 7. We were in the garage, so no one heard our screams for a long time, and I sat there and he pulls away from my lap and stands up, facing the other direction. After a long stretch of silence, he sits down on the couch and leans forward. I was trying to... Ryle's face contorts in pain. He lowers his head, covering it with his hands, shaking it back and forth. I was trying to put everything back inside his head. I thought I could fix him, Lily. It's for all the I can fix him girlies. He shot his brother in the head, and he tried to, put his brains back in, and then becomes a brain surgeon later in life, probably due to this trauma, I would assume. And now he throws his wife down the stairs because of the same trauma. And this is somehow award-winning literature and not a tween comic book. What? Ryle walks over to me, taking my hands and pulling me to him. We hug each other for a solid minute when he says, I would never tell you this because I want it to excuse my behaviour. He pulls back and looks me firmly in the eyes. You have to believe that. Alyssa wanted me to tell you all of this because since that happened, there are things I can't control. I get angry. I black out. I've been in therapy since I was 6 years old, but it's not my excuse. It's my reality. Dare I say, get a new therapist, try something else because this clearly isn't working. When you ran after me last night, I swear I had no intention of hurting you. I was upset and angry. And sometimes when I feel that much emotion, something inside of me just snaps. I don't remember the moment I pushed you, but I know I did. I did. All I was thinking when you were running after me was how I needed to get away from you. And I wanted you out of my way. I didn't process that there are stairs around us. I didn't process my strength compared to yours. I messed up, Lily. I messed up. You might as well just use being drunk as an excuse because we all know how Coho feels about drink drivers killing people. Also, this is very lazy. He's literally pulling out and playing the I just get so angry sometimes card. Newsflash, so does everyone. Everyone gets mad. Behave. You're a big grown 30-year-old man. He lowers his mouth to my ear. His voice cracks when he says, you are my wife. I'm supposed to be the one who protects you from the monsters. I'm not supposed to be one. He holds me with so much desperation he begins to shake. I have never, in all my life, felt so much pain radiating from one human. It breaks me. It rips me apart from the inside out. All my heart wants to do is wrap tightly around his. But even with everything you just told me, I'm fighting my own forgiveness. I'm still fighting my own forgiveness. I swore I wouldn't let this happen again. I swore to him and to myself that if it hurt me again, I would leave. Is Coho trying to make Ryle sympathetic so we better understand Lily's turmoil and decision to stay with him? Or is Coho trying to make Ryle sympathetic because she's a pick-me and will forgive a man for just about anything? Whichever could it be, I wonder. I'm just going to read Rob's run. I changed my mind. I want Coho to go back to writing her discounted potato salad prose because when she tries elevated language, it comes out like a drunk teen writing an essay on Emerson Messenger. Wow, I feel so seen right now. This 30-year-old man is talking about protecting his wife from monsters. What the fuck? How about you sit down around a table and discuss your finances and a sensible mortgage repayment plan along with your budgeting for your children's school fees? You idiot. Oh, I've never felt so much pain. Oh, of course he has to feel the most pain. Poor little soldier. He has plot pain. Of course you want to rip your heart open and wrap him in it because you're the kind of black rose peddling bullet for my Valentine listening and capable of having personality having dickhead this would work on. And still, I'm trying to justify what happened. It was an accident. He thought I was cheating on him. Please don't let the manosphere read this book, please, I beg. But if I'm emulating my mother's behaviour, then that would mean Ryle is emulating my father's behaviour. But he isn't. I had to stop comparing us to them. We're our own individuals in an entirely different situation. My father never had an excuse for his anger, nor was he immediately apologetic. The way he treated my mother was much worse than what happened between Ryle and me. Ryle just opened up to me in a way that he's probably never opened up to anyone. He's struggling to be a better person for me. Yes, he screwed up last night, but he's here and he's trying to make me understand his past and why he reacted the way he did. Humans aren't perfect, and I can't let the only example I've ever witnessed of marriage weigh in on my own marriage. Lily, but here's an idea. Maybe ask like 1 or 2 or 10 or 100 couples if any of them have experienced throwing one another down the stairs. If you can't rely on your parents' own marriage, maybe just talk to some other people. Remember what you said to me on the roof that night? You said there's no such thing as bad people. We're all just people who sometimes do bad things. He nods and squeezes my hand. You aren't a bad person, Ryle. I know that. You can still protect me. When you're upset, just walk away, and I'll walk away. We'll leave the situation until you're calm enough to talk about it, okay? You're not a monster, Ryle. You're only human. And as humans, we can't expect to shoulder all of our pain. Sometimes we have to share it with the people who love us so we don't come crashing down for the weight of it all. But I can't help you unless I know you need it. Ask me for help. We'll get through this one. It's a month later. Lily has no employees, Serena and Lucy, her ex-flatmate. But I see also the difference between Ryle and my father. Ryle is compassionate. He does things my father would never have done. He donates to charity. Jimmy Savile also donated to charities. This is not a good example, love. Also, the way the book romanticizes Ryle, again, is it to reflect Lily's contradictory feelings for him, or is it because Coho just loves men more than she loves women? Considering how she's been spending her time promoting the Ends of Us film by doing flower shop pop-ups and red themed nail polish, whilst the director, Justin Baldoni, is trying his best to bring back to the story of domestic abuse, I think it might be the latter. Coho is Marvel Comics for wine mums and clueless teens. They could do an extended universe crossover event where all the abusive men try to outdo one another and the women don't know who to fall for because they're all so toxic. I mean rugged. I have to remind myself of those things. Sometimes the girl inside me, the daughter of my father, is really opinionated. She tells me I shouldn't have forgiven him. She tells me I should have left the first time, and sometimes I believe that voice. But then the side of me that knows Raoul understands that marriages aren't perfect. Sometimes there are moments that both parties regret. And I wonder how I'd feel about myself had I just left him after the first incident. He never should have pushed me, but I also did things I wasn't proud of. And if I'd have just left, would that not be going against our marriage vows, for better or for worse? I refuse to give up my marriage that easily. I don't like this idea that it's giving up on your marriage by walking away from this scumbag. And look, source, trust me, bro. But I've read so much Coho at this point that I can kind of tell when it's really her voice and not her characters. And I think there's a element of Coho talking here. They get into another fight about Ryle wanting to move out of Boston for his career, and he knocks a vase off the table in anger before walking off to cool down, then returning in a calmer mood and resolving the argument. So Lily uses this as a, I was right to stay in my marriage, look, he can change, like, reasoning. Also, it's weird because it's like, did he just bottle up all of his rage for months when they were first dating without a single sign of it, yet now it happens weekly, his rage? Or is she disagreeing with him out of nowhere now? Because she seemed to be fine with anything he said before when she was a blank vagina. Ryle then buys an apartment in Alyssa's building for him and Lily without telling her, just signs the paperwork and surprises her with it. It's huge and she's a bit concerned that he didn't tell her, but whatever, it's huge, who cares? It's not cute when Jim from The Office did it. It's not cute here. Chapter 22. Lily's business has been nominated for the Best of Boston People's Choice Award for Best New Business. Ryle has been selected for training at Cambridge in England and Alyssa has gone into labour. She then gives birth a page later and they've decided on a name. Ryle and I both look at Alyssa and she smiles teary-eyed. We wanted to name her after someone Marshall and I both think the world of, so we added an E to your name. We're calling her Riley. At least Renesmee wasn't named after a wife beater. Rich people should not be allowed to choose names. Marshall sits down on the bed next to Alyssa. Did you guys hear how quiet Issa was during the whole thing? Not a single peep. She didn't even take drugs. Even more unrealistic standards for women. Coho, what are you doing? What weird religious kink is this now? He puts his arm around her and lies down with her next to the bed. I feel like I'm in that movie Hancock with Will Smith and I'm about to find out I'm married to a superhero. I hope she's more like Uma Thurman in My Super Ex-Girlfriend and she throws a shark at him. We both laugh and then he asks me if I want to hold her. I make like I have grabby hands. I fear I've already asked this, but is Lily actually 5? Why does she talk like this? It is so icky. It's like Ryan Reynolds wrote it. Then Ryle is all like, let's make a baby, Lily. Coho, please stop telling teens and young women that the playboy who won't settle for anyone and doesn't want kids or marriage, yeah, don't worry, your magic vagina can change him. Chapter 23. The entire drive home, I thought about what he'd said. I wasn't expecting this conversation to come up so soon. I'm almost 25, but I had it in my head that it would be at least a couple of years before we started trying for a family. I'm still not certain I'm ready for it, but knowing it's now something he wants someday has put me in an incredibly happy mood. As the great Rachel Oates once said, Colleen Hoover has never met a womb she wouldn't fill. Lily finds Ryle in the kitchen drunk and playing with her Boston fridge magnet, but they start making out. I can smell the scotch on his breath. And I kind of like it. Smells like Jared in here. They do some foreplay, but Ryle keeps asking her about the magnet and pulls her hair before stopping suddenly, causing Lily to admonish herself for overreacting and panicking internally. Ryle asks to undress her completely and read an article aloud in the newspaper. Lily is anxious at the strange power play, but complies. It's about Atlas's restaurant winning an award. Rob put more dissonance from her wanting to have written 2 characters, not one with conflicting sides. And I said, no, he's doing it for a power play over her, not to be romantic. And then he said, oh, none of this is romantic. I just mean he now looks like a cartoon villain. I swallow heavily, the saliva in my mouth growing thicker by the second. I try to control the trembling of my hands as I continue reading. Content warning. Sexual assault coming up. The owner, Atlas Corrigan, is a 2-time award-winning chef and also a United States Marine. It's no secret that the acronym for his highly successful restaurant, Bibbs, stands for Better in Boston. Side note, it's renamed Roots, because trees, flowers, symbolism, metaphors, themes. Justin Baldoni understands themes. Is it a motif? For me, motif is not a theme. I don't know what a motif exactly. It's an image. So it could be tree. No, it's a theme. That's a motif. You decide for me, audience. Whatever. The director bloke understands story more than Colleen Hoover, the woman who's written like 30 books. Better in Boston. I gasp. Everything is better in Boston. I clench my stomach, trying to keep my emotions under control as I keep reading. But when interviewed regarding his most recent award, the chef finally revealed the true history of the meaning behind the name. It's a long story, Chef Corrigan stated. It was a homage to someone who had a huge impact on my life. Someone who meant a lot to me. She still means a lot to me. Ryle gets angry and I can just feel the men's rights activists foaming at the mouth to defend his behaviour. Again, we're lucky the manosphere hasn't cottoned on to these books yet. Lily leaves and finds her moving box open and realizes Ryle has read her diary. He read the journal. His arm comes round my waist from behind. He slams a hand up my stomach and takes a firm hold of one of my breasts. His other hand feathers my shoulder as he moves the hair away from my neck. I squeeze my eyes shut just as his fingers begin to trace up my skin up to my shoulder. He slowly runs his finger over the heart and a shudder runs over my whole body. His lips meet my skin, right over the tattoo, and then he sinks his teeth into me so hard I scream. I try to pull away from him, but he has such a tight grip on me he doesn't even budge. The pain from his teeth piercing my collarbone rips through my shoulder, down my arm. I immediately start crying, sobbing. Then we have this. He spins me around, but my eyes are still closed. I'm too scared to look at him. His hands are digging into my shoulders as he pushes me towards the bed. I start trying to fight him off of me, but it's useless. He's too strong for me. He's angry, he's hurt, and he's not Ryle. The thing is, though, he is Ryle. You can't just pick and choose the best bits. It's not as if he got into a fist fight once and then never again. This is a pattern of behavior. It's who he is as a character. If he was a real person, this would be him. It's not a monster taking over. It's Ryle. The good, the bad, all of it. My back meets the good. What good? My back meets the bed and I frantically scoot back towards the headboard trying to get away from him. Why is he still here, Lily? His voice isn't as composed as it was in the kitchen. He's really angry now. He's in everything. The magnet on the fridge, the journal in the box I found in our closet, the tattoo on your body that used to be my favourite goddamn part of you. If this was a Black Mirror episode, men on Reddit would try to justify it. He pins her down to attempt to sexually assault her, but she bites his tongue, so he headbutts her and knocks her out. She comes to and he's trying to say he's sorry. He knows what he's done. He's Ryle again. He's been Ryle this entire time, my dude. Is all him. Lily says it's okay and waits until he falls asleep and then she escapes the bedroom. I could call the police, but my mind can't even process what all that entails. I don't want to give a statement. I don't know that I want to press charges, knowing what this could do to his career. Who cares about Ryle? He needs jail. That'll sort his blackouts out. And if Coho cared at all about women, this would have been a great chance for her to show that Lily fears the police not taking her seriously because she's married to him and he was upset. Instead, she has her worry about the guy's career. She dials Atlas because she doesn't know what else to do, so Atlas comes to get her and takes her to the hospital, chapter 24. A nurse assesses her, asks her if she was raped and if she wants a SANE exam. I shake my head again. Atlas, I swear. I squeeze my eyes shut and lower my head. I'm not covering for him this time, I whisper. He tried, but then he stopped. If you choose to press charges, you'll need, I don't want the exam. I say again, my voice firm. It's someone's choice if they don't want to press charges, but it's something else entirely to give a violent wannabe rapist who has rage blackouts access to your baby at the end of the book. Speaking of which, Lily is pregnant. I release a quick breath and then drag in more air. I start shaking my head, and when his arms come around me, I cry harder than I knew my body was even capable of. He holds me the entire time I cry. He holds me through my hatred. I did this to myself. I allowed this to happen to me. I am my mother. No, Ryle allowed himself to do this to Lily. Also, Lily should terminate the pregnancy, but we know that that's never going to happen. She's 24. She's got her whole life ahead of her, a successful business she's only really just started, and is married to a violent wannabe rapist. No way should she keep the baby that will tie her to Ryle for the rest of her life. Wisdom is chasing Colleen Hoover, but she is faster. Atlas brings her to his house from the hospital. People spend so much time wondering why the women don't leave. Where are all the people who wonder why the men are even being abusive? Isn't that where the only blame should be placed? Speak for yourself, Colleen Hoover. Not all of us. Shame women. I've got dozens of videos. And maybe, Coho, maybe, according to your own canon, maybe it's because all the behavior of men is excused. Oh, he has trauma from like shooting his brother in the head. So it later becomes almost impossible to condemn when it gets out of hand because after all, it wasn't him. It was the monster inside of him. That's not the real Ryle. It's just he's got like a little devil in his shoulder that's causing him to do these things. No, shut up. Atlas gives Lily the spare bedroom, chapter 24. Chapter 25. Move forward, don't go backwards. I smell toast. I stretch out on my bed and smile because Ryle knows toast is my favourite. I would love to snipe at this, but I do love toast too. Jam, Marmite, Lotus, Biscoff, peanut butter, whatever. Love toast. Sometimes I forget that toast exists and then I remember and then I just dine on toast for days. Lily and Atlas chat and Lily stays at his whilst he goes to work. Lily then writes another letter to Ellen where she admits she can now empathize with her mother and the abuse that she went through. I can't even begin to process the thought that I'm having a child with this man. There is a human being inside me that we created together, and no matter which option I choose, whether I choose to stay or choose to leave, neither are choices I would wish upon my child. To grow up in a broken home or an abusive one. I've already failed this baby in life, and I've only known about his or her existence for a single day. A broken home is nothing compared to an abusive one. For God's sake, Colleen, they aren't even equatable. I'm so sick of your shit. I'm so sick of your terrible, terrible opinions. Also, as if there's not a convenient Adonis standing by ready to slip in at a moment's notice, this would be far more compelling if Atlas didn't exist and Lily was actually alone. Can't go to her best friend. Her best friend is the sister of her abuser. I'm a statistic now. The things I've thought about women like me are now what others would think about me if they knew my current situation. How could she love him after what he did to her? How could she contemplate taking him back? It's sad that those are the first thoughts that run through our minds when someone is speak for your fucking self. Abused. Shouldn't there be more distaste in our mouths for the abusers than for those who continue to love the abusers? Don't you worry, Colleen. A lot of us don't victim blame anymore. That ends with me. Plus, Colleen, maybe you shouldn't write wank fantasies about abusers in all of your other books. That might help a bit, you hypocrite. Chapter 26. Lily is at Atlas's still. Occasionally, I'll place my hands on my stomach and a tiny wave of love will come. I have no idea how I can already love something so much, but I do. Good God, I don't care about this. Hatred is exhausting. Hatred is the only thing keeping me alive. I feel awkward being here. Atlas is the very reason Raoul was angry at me last night. He's the one I ran to when I needed help. Being here fills me with guilt, maybe even a little bit of shame, as though my calling Atlas lends credibility to Raoul's anger. No, Raoul was angry because he's insane. Shouldn't even say that really, because people use that as an excuse. Atlas, I say, my voice barely a whisper. I'm sorry I got so angry at you that night in this restaurant. You were right. Deep down, I knew you were right, but I didn't want to believe it. I lift my head and look at him, cracking a pitiful smile. You can say I told you so. His eyebrows draw together like my words somehow hurt him. Lily, this is not something I want to be right about. I prayed every day that I was wrong about him. I wince. I shouldn't have said that to him. I know better than to think Atlas would ever think something like I told you so. I mean, my face is a question mark right now because it's not commendable. Atlas would be an insensitive gremlin if he said, haha, told you so, your boyfriend's abusive. Not coho, commending the most basic level of decency expected from literally any man. Lily blames her lack of closure with Atlas for Raoul's anger, then tells herself there's no excuse for Raoul's behaviour. Then she blames Atlas for not returning to her. Then she gets confused about blaming Atlas. I think this emotional whiplash is very realistic actually, so congratulations, Colleen Hoover, broken clocks. Don't say I can't be nice. Atlas then says that she can stay for as long as she needs, chapter 27. Lily goes to work, but she's fearful about Raoul finding her, and then Raoul does show up. He gives her the keys and says that he's going to England for 3 months for his training and understands that she needs time. Time for what? Time to get a divorce? Idiot. When he finally forces himself out the door, I run and lock it. I slide down to the floor and hug my knees, burying my face against them. I'm shaking so hard I can feel my teeth chatter. I can't believe part of that man is growing inside me, and I can't believe I'll one day have to admit that to him. I have a solution for that. Chapter 28. She goes back to Atlas's instead of her flat. Alyssa contacts her, but Lily doesn't tell her the truth yet about Raoul. Then a car shows up outside and Lily gets scared, thinking that Raoul has found her, but it's one of Atlas's friends. It's the way that Lily is terrified of Raoul and gets sent into panic at the thought of him, where she's going to be tied to him forever because of the fetus. And it's the way Coho thinks this is commendable, FYI, but I'll explain the author's notes when we get to them. Could it be Atlas's girlfriend, Cassie? I grab my phone and make my way down the hallway toward the living room. The pounding on the door and the chime of the doorbell are still going off simultaneously. God, they're annoying. Whoever is at the door is being ridiculously impatient. If it is Cassie, I already find her extremely annoying. I know I just said that is annoying, but also all other women are annoying whores or something. It's 2 of Atlas's friends for poker night, but Atlas is at work, so Lily lets them in. One of them asks what's wrong with her head, so Lily tells them that her husband attacked her. I wouldn't have the relevant screenshots, but I'm pretty sure the friends that turn up work with Atlas? How would they not know that he's at work then? They not check the rota. Poor Darren is frozen, halfway between sitting and standing. He has no idea how to respond to that. Based on the look at his face, I think he's convinced I'm crazy. Brad pulls out his chair and takes a seat, pointing at me. You should get some Rodan and Fields. The amp roller works wonders for scarring. I immediately laugh at his random response somehow. They both sound like dicks. So, and also, Atlas is perfect, but he's friends with people who might think a woman is crazy for admitting to being attacked by her husband. Huh? Another bloke comes around and Lily plays poker with them until Atlas returns. Then she finds out Atlas doesn't have a girlfriend called Cassie, that he lied to her to save face when Lily turned up with a boyfriend to his restaurant because he's pure, and waited. Because despite this being very serious literature with themes and all, it's still a comic book for wine mums. Ryle and I weren't even an official couple yet when I ran into Atlas at that restaurant the first time. Hell, if Atlas had given me any reason to believe there was a chance between us that night, I know without a doubt I would have chosen him over Ryle. I barely even knew Ryle at that point, but Atlas didn't say anything. He lied to me and told me he'd been in a relationship for an entire year. Why? Why would he do that unless he didn't want me to think I had a chance with him? Maybe I've been wrong all this time. Maybe he never even loved me to begin with and he knew that inventing this Cassie person would keep me away from him for good. Lily, are you done? It's called male ego. Look it up, sweetie. It's forced stupidity in order for tepid conflict to ensue. She asks why he never came back for her and he says he did when she was at college, but she seemed happy and she was kissing some guy, so Atlas didn't go to didn't go say hello to her. Sorry, Jared from Bully. What an idiot. Anyway, Lily decides to go home after this revelation. Atlas takes her and even checks her apartment because she's scared of it now. Lily tells Atlas she can't deal with the idea of them at the moment and has to sort her life out, and Atlas says to call him if there's an emergency. Lily, he whispers, still holding me tight. I know this is the last thing you need to hear right now, but I have to say it because I've walked away from you too many times without saying what I really want to say. He pulls back to look down at me, and when he sees my tears, he brings up his hands to my cheeks. In the future, if by some miracle you ever find yourself in the position to fall in love again, fall in love with me. He presses his lips to my forehead. You're still my favourite person, Lily. Always will be. Can you chill out and let her get divorced, please, first? Chapter 29. 6 weeks later, Lily still hasn't told Alyssa that her brother is a piece of shit. I've been to the doctor twice. It turns out I was already 12 weeks along the night I found out I was pregnant. Convenient. Alyssa works out Lily hasn't been speaking to Ryle, so Lily tells her everything. She doesn't have to respond though. Ryle is her brother. I know she wants me to take his past into consideration, just like the last time happened. I know she'll want me to work things out with him because he's her brother. We're supposed to be one big happy family. I know exactly what she's thinking. She's quiet for a long time as she struggles through everything I've told her. She finally lifts her eyes to mine and squeezes my hands. My brother loves you, Lily. He loves you so much. You have changed his entire life and have made him someone that I never thought he could be. As his sister, I wish more than anything you could find a way to forgive him. But as your best friend, I have to tell you that if you take him back, I will never speak to you again. Had me in the first half, not gonna lie, but that first half is also kind of unnecessary still, because if I had a brother who was attacking and almost killing his wife, I would not want them to be forgiven. I would cut them off. Then again, you can't cut off family, can you? Coho is clearly one of those people to whom family are everything. And no matter what they do, you have to love them because of Vin Diesel. I mean, family. Then they cry over Ryle and start being silly girls over maternity clothes. Whiplash much. Chapter 30. Ryle returns early from England and Lily is noticeably pregnant. His eyes slowly crawl from my stomach to my face. A hurtful expression takes over him, like I've just stabbed him straight through the heart. He takes a step back into my apartment and his hands come up to his mouth. He begins to shake his head in confusion. I can see all the betrayal all over his face when he barely forces out my name. Lily? Oh, what an audacious bellend. Bin him off. I'm not going to hurt you, Lily. I'm just here to talk to you. He swings the door open wider and points into the living room. Look, he steps aside and my eyes fall to someone standing behind him. Now I'm the one who feels betrayed. Marshall? Marshall immediately holds up his hands in defense. I had no idea he was coming early. Lily. Ryle texted me and asked for my help. He specifically told me not to say anything to you or Issa. Please don't let her divorce me. I'm simply an innocent bystander. I shake my head trying to understand what I'm seeing. I asked him to meet me here so you'd feel more comfortable talking to me, Ryle says. He's here for you. He's not here for me. Well, it's still cheap. Still scheming. Still sneaking around being weird. You're weird. We'll be in the bedroom. If you hear me if I start to yell, if you hear me have a rage blackout. Marshall knows what Ryle is asking him. I'm not going anywhere. As I follow Ryle into my bedroom, I wonder what that must be like. To have no idea what might set you off or how bad your reaction will be. To have absolutely no control over your own emotions. Now there's an excuse. How convenient. It might as well be a witch's curse.
And for them to be tweeting right now, I'm playing the victim. I am the victim.
His eyes fall to my stomach again. He takes a slow step forward, then another. He's cautious, as he should be. He reaches out a timid hand, asking for permission to touch me. I nod softly. He takes one more step forward, then places a steady palm against my stomach. Ugh. His arms snake around my waist, and he presses his lips against my stomach. He clasps his hands around my lower back and presses his forehead against mine. Double ugh. I don't even know where to start, Lily. He rubs his hands down his face. How about you start with, I'm sorry I attacked you. His eyes meet mine, wide with certainty. Lily, you have... Oh, God. Oh, God. Lily, you have no idea. I'm so sorry. You have no idea what I've been through these past 2 months knowing what I've done to you. What a bellend.
I am the fucking victim.
I clench my teeth together. I can feel my fingers as they fist around the blanket beside me. I have no idea what he's been through. I shake my head slowly. You have no idea, Ryle. Lily tells him to go flip himself, basically, so good for her. Ryle then says, blah, blah, blah. I really love this baby more than I've ever loved anything in my whole life. No, you fucking don't, you weirdo. You've only just found out about the fetus. Only just. I literally don't believe anyone who says this crap, and I least of all believe men like this. He is one blackout rage away from chucking the baby out the window. It was hackneyed when Lily said it earlier, so don't repeat it now. And I bet in the next book, Atlas says something equally shit as well. Then he's like, don't take the baby away from me, help me, and starts kissing her, but makes her think of the abuse, so he stops and goes to leave. I lift my chin, looking at him with finality. I wish this baby wasn't yours, Ryle. With everything that I am, I wish this baby was not a part of you. If I thought his world couldn't crumble more, I was wrong. He walks out of my bedroom and I press my face into my pillow. I thought if I could hurt him like he had hurt me, I'd feel avenged. I don't. Instead, I feel vindictive by mean. I feel like I'm my father. Hoover, are you insane? This is on par with Tate in Bully reacting to Jared's abuse and then thinking, this is how bullies are made. Shut up. Saying something mean is not equivalent to beating and attempting to assault someone. Why can't you do anything right, Hoover? I swear to God. Normalize being vindictive and mean to scumbags and reveling in it, not this faux bigger person crap. Chapter 31. Be more like me, Phil Mitchell. Lily takes Alyssa's baby for the night. I don't know why anyone would want to read about babysitting, but here we are. She sighs, then forces a gloomy smile. I know you're sad that you're going through this about my brother. No matter how involved he is, I just want you to know that this is going to be the best thing you've ever experienced in your life. You're going to be a great mum, Lily. This baby is really lucky. Would you rather have a baby with your abuser or not have a baby with your abuser? No, I'd rather experience. Plus, what qualities has Lily demonstrated that would make her an amazing mother? Name 5. Chapter 32. Lily wants to see her own mother, but assumes that she will try to convince Lily to take Ryle back because of her own past situation. She tells her that she's pregnant and Ryle hurt her, and her mum tells her to not be like her, essentially. I want to tell you something, she says. She reached for my hands again. The day you gave your father's eulogy, I know you didn't freeze up, Lily. You stood at that podium and refused to say a single good thing about that man. It was the proudest I've ever been of you. You were the only one in my life who ever stood up for me. You were strong when I was scared. A tear falls from her eye when she says, be that girl, Lily. Brave and bold. That is nice. Could have done without the single tear though. Chapter 33. She has a baby shower. She's 30 weeks pregnant. Then Ryle turns up outside. Then he builds a crib for the nursery. I've never seen so much sadness in one expression, and I'm not even facing him straight on. I feel like the sadness he's feeling in this moment has absolutely nothing to do with me and everything to do with thoughts of his child. I wish I could have taken a picture of my face when I read this. Yes. And Ryle's eyes gain a little bit of hope, and I hate that he can see that my walls are temporarily lowered. He begins to take a slow step towards me. I know he's about to pull me to him and hug me, so I quickly take a step away from him. And just like that, the wall is back up between us. Good God, he's a vulture. My eyes fill with tears, and not for myself this time, not for the baby. Ugh, I cry for Ryle, because even though he's responsible for the situation he's in, I know how sad he is about it. And when you love someone, thank God they did not have this crap in the movie. When you love someone, seeing them sad makes you sad. Ryle, they could never, ever, ever make me like you. Also, it's actually quite humorous because this is supposed to be a touching moment and another chance for Coho to at least reach for language, but she instead chooses to use the word sad 3 times in 2 sentences. Sad, as though his sports team lost. Or are we just attributing this to Lily's baby brain? Chapter 34. Lily finishes completing the nursery and no one is around to see, so she invites Ryle. I'm barely to the front door when I hear his knock. I open it and damn it, he's wearing scrubs. Coho, do you mind? Possibly. Not sexualizing an attempted rapist. What is wrong with you? A thickness seems to form in the air around me. It's suddenly difficult to take in a full breath because, for whatever reason, I feel like I need to cry. I just really like this moment. It saddens me that we couldn't spend the entire pregnancy full of moments like these. It feels good sharing this with him, but I'm also scared I might be giving him false hope. Give him false hope. Break his heart with a hammer. I don't know what you want from me, Lily. I don't know what role you want me to have. I'm trying to give you all the space you need, but at the same time, I want to help more than you possibly know. I want to be in our baby's life. I want to be your husband and I want to be good at it, but I have no idea what's going through your head. His words fill me with guilt. Despite what has happened between us in the past, he's still this baby's father. He has the legal right to be a father, no matter how I feel about it. And I want him to be a father. I want him to be a good father. I'm not sure I would want a violent sex offender for a father, to be honest. What kind of mother would I be if a small part of me doesn't have concern in regard to your temper, the way you lose control? How do I know something won't set you off while you're alone with the baby? So much agony floods his eyes, I think they might burst like dams. He begins to shake his head adamantly. I know, Raul, you would never intentionally hurt your own child. I don't even believe it was intentional when you hurt me, but you did. And trust me, I want to believe that you would never do something like that. My father was only abusive towards my mother. Well, until he wasn't, until he threw you on the floor and you banged your head, might I add. Remember your own canon. There are many men, women even, who abuse their significant others without ever losing their temper with anyone else. I want to believe your words with all my heart, but you have to understand where my hesitation comes in. I'll never deny you a relationship with your child, but I'm going to need you to be really patient with me while you rebuild all the trust you've broken. He gets rage-induced blackouts. He should absolutely not be allowed anywhere near an infant unsupervised until he gets... Not even them. It's like let's not even think about like until but first he needs to get proper therapy and proper help that actually works. Because like clearly it's not working for him, is it? Lily says she thinks she wants a divorce but doesn't want to make the decision before the baby is born just in case it's her pregnancy hormones telling her to get away from this nightmare. Why? Not logic. Pregnancy. Shut up, Coho. Ryle, I finally say, can you promise me something? I feel him nod. Until this baby comes, please don't try to talk me into forgiving you, and please don't try to kiss me. I pull away from his chest and look up at him. I want to tackle one huge thing at a time, and right now my only priority is having this baby. I don't want to add any more stress or confusion on top of everything that's already happening. Crazy she has to tell him to not kiss, i.e. coerce her into submission, but here we are. I nod and see him out. It isn't until after I shut the door and I'm alone in my apartment that I realise I have a smile on my face. I'm still incredibly angry with him that we're even in this predicament to begin with, so my smile is simply due to making a little headway. Sometimes parents have to work through their differences and bring a level of maturity into a situation in order to do what's best for their child. What? Is Coho literally realising this as she writes it on the page? Which is alarming because she already has 3 grown-up boys. Why is this so shittily written and obvious? Not so hard, Coho. If you throw that message at me any more enthusiastically, it might break something. Yeah, like, no shit. Sometimes parents need to talk to you. Anyway, chapter 35. I can't be bothered anymore. Lily is doing 2 days, so Ryle is helping her out. He's basically like moved it, I think. He runs back towards me and leans down, planting his lips on my stomach. I'll double your allowance if you decide to come out today, he says to the baby. He talks to the baby a lot. I find... Also, right, okay, the thing about... we'll get into it, but I just realised the thing about, oh, he might not ever hurt the child because blah, blah, blah. Like, say, like, she'd stayed with him. What would have stopped him from hurting her and then, like, the fetus miscarrying because he's, like, chucked her down the stairs again or something? Because, yeah, he might never hurt the baby whilst it's outside the room, but when it's inside the room, it's still Lily. And, like, you know, if his rage-induced blackouts are, like, relationship-related, what would stop him from hurting his pregnant wife? Nothing. Nothing that we've, like, the text that hasn't shown contrary. Like, shut up. I'm telling myself to shut up, sorry. He talks to the baby a lot. I finally felt comfortable enough to let him feel the baby kick a couple of weeks ago, and since then he stops by sometimes just to talk to my belly and doesn't even say that much to me. I like it though. I like how excited he is to be a father. Oh look, Lily has gone from victim to walking incubator. Is this progress? You love bomb that baby, champ. Ryle has been sleeping on the sofa for the past week in case Lily goes to labour. The 3rd bedroom is now a nursery, which means the master bedroom is available for him to sleep in, but for whatever reason, he chooses to sleep on the couch. I think the memories in that bedroom plague him just as much as they plague me. Aw, does the big man feel bad for attempting to rape someone? Poor big man. Such a tortured, romantic hero being painted here, once again revealing Coho's actual allegiance that is forever rearing its head, its misogynistic head at that, internalized misogynistic. Lily's water breaks, so Ryle takes her to the hospital and she has the baby quickly. When they lay her on my chest, it's the absolute greatest moment of my life. What life? You're only 24. They named the baby after Ryle's brother, you know, the one he shot, They call her Emerson, Emmy for short. After a while, I pull away from his, like, how is that not? If his rage-induced blackouts come from his childhood trauma of accidentally killing his own brother, how is, like, having your baby named after the brother you inadvertently killed not going to be a constant trigger point? Because clearly his therapy ain't fucking working. Oh my god, Coho, can you do anything right? After a while, I pull away from his shoulder so I can watch him hold her. It's a beautiful thing seeing him interact with her like this. I can already see how much love he has for her from just the little time he's known her. I can see that he would do anything to protect her, anything in the world. Yeah, until he gets mad and blacks out. You want to risk it? Ryle is amazing in so many ways. He's compassionate, he's caring, he's smart, he's charismatic, he's driven. Can I see some of that charisma, please? My father was some of these things too. He wasn't very compassionate towards others, but there were times we spent together that I knew he loved me. He was smart, he was charismatic, he was driven, but I'd hated him so much more than I loved him. I was blinded to all the best things about him thanks to all the glimpses I got of him when he was at his worst. 5 minutes of witnessing him at his worst couldn't make up for even 5 years of him at his best. I look at Emerson, I look at Ryle, and I know that I have to do what's right for her, what's best for her. For the relationship I hope she builds with her father. I don't make this decision for me, and I don't make it for Ryle. She asked for a divorce, not for herself, and she says it's not for Ryle's benefit, but it's so that Emmy's vision of her father isn't tainted. So low-key, it's still for Ryle's benefit, is it not? So they can have a relationship because the baby's not tainted. Also, huge point I saw on Reddit, and I've not made this up myself, but it also relates to the thing that I just said, but I saw this said on Reddit first. So let's say Ryle's abuse trigger is romantic relationship related and he never does hurt his own child. What if he gets a girlfriend after Lily? And don't say he won't, because Lily's his one. Men like this always find new girlfriends. Say he gets a new girlfriend and he starts beating her up too, and then Emmy grows up seeing that anyway, despite Lily's effort. What then? Get logic, Hoover. Lily, he says, shaking his head back and forth. Please don't do this. His voice is pleading, and I hate that he's been holding on to the hope that I would eventually take him back. That's partly my fault. No, he is literally just an entitled male, and they are a dime a dozen. I'd be more worried he's holding on to your baby while you're making him mad, but okay. He begs for another chance. It would be the final chance, though, because he would most likely end up killing Lily. I know I'm hurting him at the worst possible time. I'm breaking his heart when this should be the best moment of his life. Based. Girl boss, girl pilled, based. Ryle, I say gently, what would you do? If one of these days this little girl looked up to you and she said, Daddy, my boyfriend hit me, what would you say to her, Ryle? What if she came to you and said, Daddy, my husband pushed me down the stairs. He said it was an accident. What should I do? What if, my voice breaks, what if she came to you and said, my husband tried to rape me, Daddy. He held me down while I begged him to stop, but he swears he'll never do it again. What should I do, Daddy? He gets the point. But it's still not exactly a win if a bloke can only understand a woman's boundaries just because they father a daughter. Yes, Ryle, women who aren't directly related to you have feelings too, you know? It is depressing. It's really depressing how many men can only begin to relate to women as human beings once you exploit their obsessive, possessive relationship with their own virginal daughters. In the last 15 minutes, he lost the love of his life. Don't be fooled, audience. This type of man could and would have a new girlfriend within 6 months. It always happens. You see it happen. And I don't even, just always happens. He's sadder than I've ever seen him as he walks towards the door. But I know he'll thank me for this one day. I know the day will come when he'll understand that I made the right choice by his daughter. Our daughter, comrade. The amount of times Coho writes his daughter as if he did more than just donate some sperm, as if Lily and all pregnant women aren't the ones to do all of the work for months, the work of growing a human being. Lily is doing right by her daughter. Anyway, the cycle of abuse is broken and it ends with us. Epilogue. Emmy is 11 months old, which is pretentious speak for basically a year old. Lily is living in her own place near her work. She bumps into Atlas. When I say Ryle's name, there's a sadness that reaches Atlas's eyes, but he tries to disguise it. He nods and slowly steps aside for us to pass. It's his day to have her, I clarify. So she is letting Ryle the maniac be unsupervised around their baby. Don't happen in the film. Brilliant decision making all round. She leaves Atlas in the street and gives the baby over to Ryle. Nothing could convince me that he's going to be a good father. I press the buttons to fold the stroller and walk it to the back of his car. Yeah, but it broke like a month ago. I threw it in the dumpster. Why is dumpster capitalized? After dumping her baby, she runs back to Atlas. I'm out of breath, panting and nervous. I forgot to tell you Emerson's middle name. I put my hands on my hips and exhale. It's Dory. Horrible, but thank God she didn't watch Cars, or else she'd be writing letters to Owen Wilson and calling her baby Emerson Lightning McQueen Kincaid. Then Atlas says he's ready for her if she's all in. I pull back and look up at him. Do you donate to charity? Whatever happened to Lily making a charity? Whatever happened to that? Never went anywhere, did it? Also, again, see Jimmy Savile. Then they get together. I close my eyes when I feel his lips meet the spot on my collarbone. He presses a gentle kiss there, and it feels just like the first time he kissed me there all those years ago. He brings his mouth to my ear, and in a whisper, he says, "You can stop swimming now, Lily." We finally reach the shore. First of all, Atlas is mayonnaise. He's so boring. Secondly, you cringe-inducing idiot. You're not in a shitty romantic novel / lady comic book now, mate. You're in a serious piece of literature with themes. So you can't just go around dropping these catchphrases like a child would. Thirdly, aren't you fish in this scenario? Just keep swimming. Going to shore will kill you. I don't care if maybe earlier there was a reference to someone swimming in a storm or whatever, because there's too much counter evidence of you being the fish. So shut up. I win, again, as usual. The end. Notes from the author. And do remember, Coho wrote this book using her parents' abusive relationship as an example. They divorced before Coho was free. I knew their marriage was an abusive one, but my mother never talked about it. To discuss it would have meant she was talking ill of my father, and that's something she never once did. She wanted the relationship I had with him to be free of any strain that stood between the two of them. Because of this, I have the utmost respect for parents who don't involve their children in the dissolution of their relationships. Why is Hoover presenting her mother as a silent martyr? I asked my father about the abuse once. He was very candid about their relationship. He was an alcoholic during the years he was married to my mother, and he was the first to admit he didn't treat her well. In fact, he told me he had 2 knuckles replaced in his hand because he had hit her so hard they broke against her skull. And no, dear audience, not that Coho bothers to mention, but no, alcoholism is not an excuse for breaking your knuckles on someone's skull. On more than one occasion while writing this, I wanted to change the plotline. I didn't want Ryle to be who he was going to be because I'd fallen in love with him in those first several chapters, just as Lily had fallen in love with him, just as my mother fell in love with my father. Knew it. That's why Hoover is so soft with Ryle. She actually really does love his character. The same character we saw pathetically begging Lily for a one-night stand because Coho would find that like a compliment rather than so weird. Like, what is it in the first chapters that made her fall in love with this man slug? My father passed away several years ago when I was 25 years old. He wasn't the best father. He certainly wasn't the best husband. But thanks to my mother, I was able to have a very close relationship with him because she took the necessary steps to break the pattern before it broke us. Why would you want a relationship with someone that beat your mother on several occasions? Hear me out. Instead of beating, replace the word beat with rape. Would you still have wanted a relationship with this man? If no, tell me why. Give me the reasons, I'll wait. And I wonder how far backwards Coho would bend to defend a wife and mother who routinely smashed dinner plates over her husband's head. Betting she wouldn't. I chose to fashion Lily and Ryle's story after my mother and father's. I fashioned Ryle after my father in many ways. They are handsome, compassionate, funny and smart, with moments of unforgivable behaviour. The way she defines these men as handsome, compassionate, smart, but with moments of unforgivable behaviour. No, they're abusive dicks. What's wrong with you, dude? Like, I truly do wonder, where is the line for Colleen Hoover? What does a man have to do repeatedly for her to finally say they're no longer a good, handsome person who does bad things? Then she says her stepfather was great and she asked him to walk her down the aisle instead of her bio dad. He nodded his head and said, "This is the bio dad. Colleen, he raised you. He deserves to give you away at your wedding, and you shouldn't feel guilty about it because it's the right thing to do." I knew my decision absolutely gutted my father, but he was selfless enough as a father to not only respect my decision, but he wanted me to respect it too. She's really just advocating for women to stay in touch with abusive men and let said abusive men be around children unsupervised. Like, why are you spending your author's note going on about how, well, yeah, he did beat her mother a few times. He was actually still a decent and selfless dad. Am I the weird one here, or is this really strange? Why are you promoting this to women? And promoting it via Lily and Ryle's co-parenting too. Ryle beat Lily. Ryle tried to rape Lily. Ryle has anger blackouts, but it's okay because Coho's dad was selfless, apart from doing such things as breaking his knuckles on someone's skull. But Coho's story is saying, no, it's fine because Ryle will be the same. He won't hurt the baby. Source, trust me, bro. Here's the thing. On Reddit, whenever Colleen Hoover is brought up in like the book subreddits, there's always people being like, oh, I didn't read it because it's good. I know it's trashy, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, if you're reading Colleen Hoover because it's trashy and you recognize it's crap, but you won't internalize the messages because you see the book for the terrible books they are, but it's a guilty pleasure of yours, fine, you do you, babe. I ain't got an issue with that. I really don't. But there are hundreds of thousands of young teens who think that this writing is good, objectively good. These people do not yet have good media literacy. I'm not being elitist. It's just true. I saw a TikTok talking about how Verity must have been ghostwritten, and this is what the TikToker said, because although Coho is a good writer, Verity is like next level good. It had, I checked, 100,000 likes 1 million views, thousands of people agreeing with her. These typically young people exist in droves on BookTok, and they like Coho because they think she's a good writer when objectively she just isn't. I had an actual writer help me with my script for this one to point out the stuff like themes and character consistency. These are the people who will internalize the messages that Colleen Hoover promotes. Just because he tried to kill you doesn't mean he will do that to your baby, so don't you dare be one of those parents who keeps their child safe. And you all know, after this book came out, BookTok was full of people, because it's marketed as romance for young adults, saying, oh, Lily should have given Ryle another chance because it's not his fault he's violent and he will change this time. He's not a bad person. He just did a few bad things, i.e. the thing that was like said at numerous times throughout this book. There's no such thing as bad people, only people who do bad things. I can't be asked to explain myself anymore, but sure, I've not seen anyone do this, by the way. Like, I'm like, yeah, tell me I'm a pearl clutcher. I've never seen anyone call me a pearl clutcher. But yeah, tell me I'm the pearl clutcher, because I don't think teenagers should internalize the message of forgive abusive men by books being marketed directly towards them. And in the past, she says, I've always said I write for edutainment. Entertainment purposes only. I don't write to educate, persuade, or inform. This book is different. This was not entertainment for me. It was the most grueling thing I've ever written. So she's trying to educate or inform with this book. But what is the message? He might beat you up, but he won't hurt a baby. Don't worry about it. Keep the kid. It'll be fine. Be tied to this person for the rest of your life. Like, that's the message that she's trying to portray. Men aren't really evil monsters. They just have little demons inside them that are separate to them, but inside them who do bad things sometimes. Those are the messages. And I don't feel educated. I just feel very annoyed. She puts in some resources at the end of the book for domestic violence support, which is good. I'm a reasonable person. I'll give her kudos when she does something worth commending. Acknowledgement. This is where all that goodwill, the tiny bit of goodwill I just gave her, gets ripped away. To Ellen DeGeneres. 1 of 4 people I hope I never meet. Why? What? Huh? I don't get it. You are light where there is darkness. Really? To Lindy. Thank you for the life lessons and the examples of what it is to be a selfless human. And thank you for one of the most profound quotes that will stick me forever. There is no such thing as bad people. We're all just people who do bad things. Was Hitler just a person who did bad things too? Don't be so extreme. Why am I not allowed to? Why is she allowed to write a whole fucking book forgiving a man for being abusive, basically? But I'm not allowed to say that. No one's telling me. I'm just shadowboxing, ignore me. And maybe on some level it could be argued that there's no such thing as bad people, just people who do bad things. But again, where's the line? At what point do you step in and say it's not okay to do certain shit anymore? Like, why are you being spineless? Sometimes people are complex, but people can be complex evil. In fact, an evil character in a book should be very compelling. You should be almost able to agree with them, but they're way too extreme. That's what makes a good evil character good. Not rootable, but decent. I don't know why I don't know. I'm losing the plot. I need to finish. I'm losing the plot. Get a load of this. This is the last page of her acknowledgements, and I want you to look at the size difference between the acknowledgements to her mother and then to her father. Ready? To my mother. You are everything to everyone. That can be sometimes a burden, but you somehow see burdens as blessings. Our entire family thanks you. And last but not least, to my damned old daddy, Eddie. You aren't here to see this book come to life, but I know you would have been its biggest supporter. You taught me many things in life, the greatest being that we don't have to end up the same person we once were. I promise not to remember you based on your worst days. I will remember you based on the best, and there were many. I'll remember you as a person who was able to overcome what many cannot. Thank you for becoming one of my closest friends, and thank you for supporting me on my wedding day in a way that many fathers would not have. I love you. I miss you. I had to send that to several people to make sure that it's like I'm not the weird one, because I'm really second guessing myself here. I'm going to leave it up to you, audience, to conclude. But did Colleen Hoover just make her longest acknowledgement in a book about domestic violence to her father, who hit her mother so hard his knuckles got replaced? When I read this, I was actually flabbergasted. I think it's sick. Not in the good way. I just think she's not right. She's not. And I know that some of you pearl clutchers are going to say, well, we don't know the ins and out. We only know like the little bit of what she's told us. But then don't tell me a detail about how he broke his hand from hitting her mother and then expect me to sit here and clap when she thanks the very same man for not hitting her too. I'm done. But in a way, this does explain so much about why Colleen always bats for awful men. Goodbye. Over. Finished. That's it. it ends with me. That's all for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, let me know what you think. Do you think am I wrong? Or is that something else entirely? I don't know. I don't have children, but if I was a mother and I saw that my child had written an acknowledgement that long, longer than mine, to someone who used to abuse me so badly, I would not be understanding about it. I would not be happy about it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I make new videos whenever I feel like it. Tell me if I should do It Starts With Us next, because why not? Let's have a Colleen Hoover week. Follow me on Instagram. I'm going to link a few different GoFundMes down below for people who were affected during the riots. And, well, that's all, really. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.